Celebrate 30 years of music with the Summer Awards, Saturday to November. Yellow carpet starts at 7:30 p.m. and the main awards at 8 p.m. on SABC 1.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So, how was your weekend and what did you do this weekend? Lots to consider, lots to reflect on. I tell you what I would reflect on just from a personal experience is attending the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation's fundraiser at the weekend. Of course, I've been there before, right? But I'll tell you one thing that I want to just mention about it. I remember for a long period it was a fundraiser that was done when Ahmed Kathrada was alive, right? Now, of course, you're speaking to a position where your key person, in this case, Ahmed Kathrada is not living, and it's a very different situation in terms of fundraising, right? But outside of that and the significant amount of monies they got to raise, which is great, the attending the function reminded me once again of the formidable work the Kathrada Foundation plays in South Africa. Firstly, in terms of their very, very strong stance of anti-racism, not just in civil society, but even in things like sport. They've been very clear about that. Then the issues of leadership and the stance they've taken on no corruption and their stance on overall leadership in the very political and social spaces in our country. And then the formation of youth clubs. They've got over 50 youth clubs in the country, and they want to get up to 95 by 100. In fact, by the time Ahmed Kathrada would have turned 100 in 5 years' time. It just got me thinking about the tremendous role the Kathrada Foundation plays, but also the tremendous role civil society organizations like that plays in the development of our country. I often talk about attempting to build a champion nation. And I'll tell you what, it can never happen just with government alone. So when I mention the Kathrada Foundation, in reality, I could be talking about 20 other foundations and organizations, all playing hugely important roles in creating the building blocks to build the champions that we need to build a champion nation. So just a thumbs up to the Kathrada Foundation, but certainly you can internalize it to your own community. Who are the champion organizations in your community who are doing fantastic work outside the party political space? Well, that's certainly my point. You can tell me your point. What about your thoughts? 086 000 2032. You can WhatsApp, text, or voice notes to 0614 104 107. My name is Ashraf Garda. This is the National Pulse. What for you are the big issues that moves the National Pulse today? We'll talk about that and many other issues, including the issues of these daily shootings that we just can't let go of, and it's horrific. So we'll certainly talk about that coming up just now. But let's get to one of the bigger issues that we need to touch on just for now, and it's a development between South Africa and the Ukraine, right? Around visas and other forms of collaboration. So Crispin Piri is with us. We talked to him about the significance of the meeting today between our Minister of International Relations, Ronald Lamola, together with his Ukrainian counterpart, Andrei Sybiha. Well, the two ministers signed an agreement on visa waivers for diplomatic service. Now, is that a big deal or not? Crispin Piri, with our spokesperson for the minister. Crispin, appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting with us on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much for having me, Ashraf. Good afternoon to our listeners as well.
Thank you. Perhaps you can answer that question. Is it a big deal here or not, considering it's a visa corporation that's linked to the diplomatic service only and not to the rank and file public?
No, it's a symbol of how we're strengthening our bilateral ties, and you would know that most of our diplomatic efforts in the Ukraine and the Russia-Ukraine conflict have been taking place, led by President Cyril Ramaphosa himself through the African Peace Initiative. And now it's culminating into the Ukrainians also valuing that by saying, let's ensure that we have complete access of diplomats and officials to continue entering our country and vice versa. At a citizens level, we were informed today by the Ukrainian minister that citizens do not require a visa to go into the Ukraine, South African citizens. And we are looking at making sure that that is reciprocal on our side. So it is significant and it is important, especially given the context of what South Africa's diplomacy is doing around the conflict in that region.
Well, perhaps tell us about the diplomacy South Africa is doing, because as you know, one of the big arguments that has been consistent in the last few months is like South Africa's got a very clear position regarding Palestine and Israel, and it appears they're very, very low key regarding Ukraine and their chummy Russia. That's been the general narrative. So tell us more.
Yeah, that narrative is misleading for two reasons: that you can never really compare conflicts, and they occur around different circumstances, and they require different reactions and different approaches. The Israel-Palestinian conflict, you would know, Ashraf, is one that has been ongoing since the existence of democratic South Africa. Every diplomatic track that you can think of to date has not resolved the question of Palestine's existence, and it has not stopped any conflict, even predating October 7th. So that is how we are where we are now in that context. So diplomacy in that sense has not succeeded in any way. The second issue is that what is quite clear is that the type of conflict you are dealing with is genocidal in nature, and the only tools that would be able to stop that is the enforcement of international law itself. Whereas with the Ukrainian conflict, as we know, it's a pretty recent conflict, if you want to call it that, if we look at the frame of time. And there's a lot of diplomacy at play. So, and none other than President Ramaphosa himself being one of the very few world leaders who have spoken to both President Zelensky and President Putin about how we view this conflict and what we think should be done. And we can already see some level of traction in that regard, because today the Minister of Ukraine confirmed that at the second Global Peace Summit, they will invite Russia to the table. And that is in line with what we've been saying, because for you to resolve a conflict, you need both parties at the table. In the Palestinian conflict, we've also said the same thing, to say we're calling for a ceasefire and people must be at the table, but and discuss the way forward. And that's the same principle that we are advancing, even in the Ukraine-Russia conflict.
Okay, so I hear that. So therefore, in terms of this cooperation agreement around diplomatic visas, how then do you see that play out in practical terms on a working relationship basis?
No, it's a significant development. I mean, it will now enable our diplomats and our officials to move in and out of Ukraine and vice versa here. So there will be no impediments on how we can facilitate agreements moving forward, or how we can rather facilitate visits moving forward. So it's quite significant. It will make things a lot more convenient for ourselves. With regards to citizens also moving unhindered without visas, the Ukrainians coming to South Africa without a visa, that is something that we are looking into, and we'll transmit through our diplomatic channels a response back to the Ukrainians, but we'll also transmit through our government channels and a technical approach to Home Affairs, which Home Affairs normally facilitates that technical aspect of what this entails.
Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, linked to that is and you can advise us on this. What's happened here, where the Minister of Home Affairs, Leon Schreiber, has been talking about, and I'm quoting his tweet, "In my capacity, I'm honored and announce that in my capacity as the Minister of Home Affairs representing the Republic of South Africa, I've signed an historic agreement granting visa-free access in our country for Ukrainian holders of diplomatic officials and service passports and vice versa." Now, I mean, that part is exactly what you've just mentioned, right? Then he makes the point about, I look forward to President Ramaphosa adding his signature to this agreement. That means it still has to be signed in the coming week. Now, linked to that is Vince Magwenya, effectively responding to that tweet and effectively suggesting that Leon Schreiber and Minister of Home Affairs is doing things on his own.
Yeah, so maybe let me explain how the process works. It's not a unilateral decision by Minister Schreiber to say, I am doing this. It's a process between both countries that would have started through the diplomatic channels. We would negotiate. We want to deepen our bilateral relations to a point where we have an agreement on how our officials enter and exit each other's countries. We would then say, right, we will take this up with Home Affairs, who Home Affairs will then work on the technical aspects of it, because they are literally the border management agency. Once that is done, they would then return to say, we agree this is congruent with every law that we can find in South Africa pertaining to border management and so on, or whatever agreement that is relevant and applicable. Then from there, we then take the documents to the President, who then signs a presidential minute, who then says, indeed, South Africa has agreed to this process. So I think what has happened here is Minister Schreiber might have announced this process before the president had signed a particular presidential minute, and as a result, you have that little disjuncture between Mr. Magwenya and how Minister Schreiber communicated. So Mr. Magwenya is completely right about ensuring that you only communicate something of this nature officially once the president has signed the presidential minute.
Okay, I mean, and that in essence is what he tweeted. I'm talking about Vincent Magwenya's tweet. The president is yet to sign the minute authorizing the minister to sign the agreement with Ukraine. It is unclear how the minister can announce signature of an international agreement without prior formal authorization to do so. So we still remain within the context of Ukraine now, as our conversation talks about. But, I mean, does this suggest, again, a deeper breakdown in terms of different departments now part of the GNU, but also representing different political interests, either trying to outshine each other or at the same time not being seen to being different and set apart in trying to show the country who's in charge here?
I think I wouldn't want to first express political judgment on the issue.
Yeah.
Although my political stance is very well known, but on the platform that I wear now, it would be inappropriate to do so. And I wouldn't want to characterize it as that. I would want to think that perhaps the colleagues, having been new in government, would then appreciate just how the protocols of such issues are handled, and maybe we must look at it as a moment to say, in future, this is how we handle the signing of international agreements. I would want to frame it as that, but if my perspective is officially different or someone else has a different view, they are most welcome to.
Okay, well, ever the diplomat, and you are in the diplomatic service in many ways, you know, my colleague being new in government. Just the last thing on that, has there been a discussion between the two since then, you know, besides what we see on the Twitter spaces?
I know I can definitely confirm that there are discussions between the two ministers about it, because ideally what would have happened is once the presidential minute is signed, we would have expected the Minister of Home Affairs to be here as a ceremony to show that indeed there's these two agreements. He is the competent authority in terms of border management issues, so ceremonially he would ideally have been part of the meeting.
Fair enough,
to symbolize that there's this type of thing.
All
so
right.
there have been engagements and they're ongoing. Even myself, you would have seen, I tweeted that we are looking forward to seeing you at the official ceremony. So it's something that definitely between all officers.
Okay, and understandably, and I've certainly seen that. But has there been a further conversation and moderation between Vincent Magwenya and Leon Schreiber post their tweet?
I don't know.
Okay. We'll tweet them and see if they tell us whether they've spoken to each other since. Appreciate your time. Is there anything else you'd like to add on this issue, Crispin? Perhaps some significant aspect of this that we may not have looked at?
So I think one thing I can add is, this week and this what we have seen today shows South Africa's firm non-alignment policy. We've just come from Russia, Kazan, where we had engagements through the BRICS forum with President Putin, and today we are engaging the Minister of Ukraine. Nothing shows South Africa's non-alignment more strongly than that, and that consistency in us saying we're a non-aligned state. We want to be engaging with both sides of any divide to ensure that we're able to drive the process forward to a long-lasting and just peace process, and that's definitely what you saw today.
Okay, and that's where we're going to leave it. Appreciate your time, Crispin Perry, spokesperson for the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation. And in the context of that is a significant move, particularly because of the country concerned, South Africa and the Ukraine, the signing of a cooperation agreement really between the Ukraine and South Africa, between the two international relations ministers, and that links to an agreement on a visa waiver for the diplomatic service. It does talk about certainly the countries being closer together than perhaps what you and I may think, or do you see it differently? Well, let's get your point. 086 000 2032. WhatsApp, text, voice notes 0614 104 107. And as always, you can post on social media, on the X platform, or tweet it out there. Tag me, Ashraf Ganda. Do tag SAFM Radio. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And we have many regulars posting on Facebook. Let me not stop you. Go ahead. Post. Share the pictures of where you are as well. This is the National Pulse.
Fizzy drinks and fruit juices are making our kids sick. Sugar is dumped into their bodies with every sip, leading to obesity, heart disease, and diabetes as they get older. We need to protect our kids from all sugary drinks. Demand a stronger health promotion levy now. Sign the petition on heala.org. That's HEALA.org.
Johannesburg Water is concerned about the current high water consumption, which is causing a severe strain on the entity's systems and threatens the sustainability of consistent bulk supply. Play your part in conserving water by following these simple tips. Reporting leaks and burst pipes. Do not leave taps dripping and repair your internal leaks. Wash your car on the grass as this will water your lawn at the same time and shorten your showering time. Together, we can reduce water wastage and protect this precious resource. Brought to you by Johannesburg Water, a water utility that cares.
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the tooth fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does everyone at your company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul.
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampo on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Okay, so that one is significant. I'd like to get your thoughts on that issue. And besides what was spoken about regarding these diplomatic relations, what would you like to tell me about your understanding of the, let's call it a Twitter spat, okay, between the Minister of Home Affairs and the spokesperson for the presidency, Vince Magwenya? What do you make of that? And maybe we'll post it again. And in fact, I'll ask Fusani just to share that. I think it's a significant conversation that says a lot about where we are within the context of the government of national unity, right? So keep that thought on hold at the moment. Let's move on to something else that's just as important and significant, and really is something that we as a production team spoke about early on, and it is a big cause for concern, right? You may have seen this. There's not a day at this point in time where we've not seen issues around shootings, and I don't just mean, small, not that any shooting is small, but there's a difference between single shootings of one spat or a break-in to something that seems to be like mass shooting. Now, you may be aware in the last few weeks, I think there's possibly over 100 100 people have died or so in the last 2 months or so, just around mass shootings in South Africa, and not a day. There was Khayelitsha last night, I believe, about 5 people. Then you hear about it this morning. Something else has happened. It just does not stop. So let's talk about this in terms of they're not just being killed. It's very gun-related killing. So let's talk about the role of guns in society, because one of my theories has been, I'm not saying I can solve the whole crime problem, but I'll tell you what, most killings occur through guns and after that through long knives. You think of pangas, but if you don't have a gun, there's only one person you're bound to knife before people will pounce on you. When you have a gun, you could shoot 4 or 5 people in one go and 10 and 15 people in one go, as we've actually seen now, to the point of horrific where we're losing lives of people in our country, right? So let's talk about the role of guns in society, what needs to be done to ensure that various communities are protected and safe. My guest is Professor Kholofelo Rakubu, who's of the view that the easy availability of firearms plays a central role. So maybe we concur. Let's find out more about it with Prof. Kholofelo Rakubu, criminologist at the Tshwane University of Technology. Appreciate your time, Prof. Rakubu. Thanks for connecting to the National Pulse.
Thanks for having me. Good day to the listeners.
Thank you. So my thought, and I've said it in the intro, besides other big social issues, if you eliminate the guns, at least when people are fired up and angry, they can't shoot people, which will immediately restrict the numbers of people who are bound to die. Very different to what we've experienced in the last month or so in South Africa. Do you concur with that?
Yes, I do. But again, I do recognize that we have evolved as the country. We are highly violent, and the availability and easy access perpetuate a level of mass shooting. It has become our way of communication, how we vent, how we negotiate, a gun has to be involved. And you can imagine the generation we are raising with all of this. But we are just suffering long-standing policy issues, because if you check the Firearm Control Act 60 of 2000 has been there, and the discrepancies within that act have been identified for quite some time. To date, it has not been reviewed because the access and the ownership issues could have been handled in that review. To date, there are still researches around its review, and it has not been finalized. You can imagine that how many people are going to own guns that are not supposed to own, because gun ownership in South Africa definitely has to be reviewed. People that don't qualify psychologically to own guns are owning guns. And we have been having issues with gun proliferation for quite some time. Now, with all this that I have identified, the country does not seem to be on par with that on the ground, because if it recognized all these issues that comes with easy access, availability, so much could have been done in 1 week or in 2 weeks, because it just requires political will to gather all relevant stakeholders, right, to make sure that you tighten the loose end, but only if you realize or you recognize the impact of those loose ends in policies, right? So we are here today because of the easy access, like I said, availability, and how do they become available in communities? Our porous borders have contributed immensely into that. And this pool of illegal firearms, remember, some have been legal firearms before, but there are issues, right? With that, some have been stolen, some have been sold, but porous borders does contribute immensely. So hence we've been talking of multi-sectoral approach, because it cannot be one a stakeholder dealing with all of this.
Okay, and in this multi-sectoral approach, and as you said, that there are many factors that come into play, how would you see this ending? I mean, what would be the end goal of this? Obviously, the end goal will be a safer country, but in terms of the practical usage of guns, where do you see that fitting into this?
We need to, like I said, as we review ownership part, and also the illegal firearm ownership punishment should be on par, right, with the decision to own one. Because if I were to ask you, what is your punishment should you be found with an illegal firearm? Before it kills anyone, what's going to happen to you? Nothing. I don't think you are even fearful, right? Because what? There's so much available for an offender to decide to do something in South Africa. If they were to say,
carry on. No, carry on.
If they were to say ownership is equivalent to straight 15 years, illegal ownership, 15 years, no negotiation whatsoever, that would have impacted on decisions for people to easily access or even decide to own.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because it's illegal. Why would a person keep an illegal firearm in the first place? What would be their motivation? Which then they must be treated as the capacity to commit a wrong, and that's where the problem is. But as we get to news time, just a quick thought then. Would you say very harsh punishment on illegal firearms, but what about the use of legal firearms by citizens? Should we still have that, or should we go what many organizations, or some of them are advocating, which is actually an end to guns in the country completely, and only the police service themselves keeps guns, and the defense force, and nobody else?
That is not, I don't think that is relevant in looking at the South Africa's crime landscape. Remember, the legal firearm ownership also has issues. It is not only illegal firearms that have contributed to mass killings. Even the legal firearm, an owner, the fact that you have a legal firearm in South Africa does not make you a law-abiding citizen. You might be having a legal firearm, but psychologically and all other issues, not qualifying to even own a firearm. You did not go through the correct process, but your gun is deemed legal.
So quick yes, no. Would you then call for a ban of legal firearms as well?
Not a ban at the moment.
No. Okay.
Not a ban at the. We're not ready yet.
All right,
Yes.
got that. Professor Kholofelo Rakubu, who is a criminologist at the Tshwane University of Technology. Thank you for your time. Well, lots to consider around the issue of the usage of guns in South Africa. I certainly want to get your frustrations, but come up with your solutions as well. WhatsApp 0614 104 107. Here's the news headlines with Madubi.
Thank you very much, Uncle A, and a very good afternoon. In your headlines at 3:30, police say they're working tirelessly to ensure that a group of gunmen who shot and killed 4 people in the Nyezane area in Escort KZN yesterday are found and arrested. COGTA Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa has announced that the government has contingency plans to minimize the impact of severe weather conditions during the summer season. And the head of NATO says the deployment of North Korean troops in parts of Russia's Kursk region, where Ukrainian troops have occupied land, represents a significant escalation in Pyongyang's involvement in the war against Ukraine. Details of these and other stories coming up 4 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, defective traffic lights recorded across the region, so remember to treat these intersections as four-way stops. Old Johannesburg Road in Midrand has roadworks reported with traffic restrictions north of Olifantsfontein Road, and the N1 southbound in Pretoria has roadworks reported with lane closures at the R21 highway interchange, and you're asked to expect delays. In KZN, Inanda Road westbound slow moving in the Peter Road area. The N11 has roadworks reported with traffic restrictions north of Ladysmith. The N2 is road surface damage reported just west of the Zolgowini, so delays and diversions are possible. In Cape Town, the N12 in Oudtshoorn is closed at Madingspoort due to flooding, so use alternative routes. The R328 in Prince Albert, that's the Swartberg Pass, is closed due to heavy rains in the area, and the N7 Jakes Havel Drive southbound slow moving at Voortrekker Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
It's to me, there's only one top story about a team that's currently bottom. Go ahead and
absolutely, and I think Manchester United will be interested in this one because Manchester, the fans, because the club have sacked their manager Erik ten Hag and Ruud van Nistelrooy, who is currently the assistant coach. He just came in this season replacing Benny McCarthy. He will take charge of the team as interim head coach, supported by the current coaching team, whilst a permanent head coach is recruited. And apparently the club have been reportedly working on a short list of 5 possible replacements. So the big question right now is who is going to replace Erik ten Hag. And just by the way, he is the 5th manager to lose his job since Sir Alex Ferguson, and he has former Manchester United captain Gary Neville.
Being one of the sort of probably many hundreds of thousands, millions of United fans who wanted to continue with Erik ten Hag and thought that if you don't get a replacement that's at this moment in time, standout replacement, give him an opportunity to succeed under a new structure with another transfer window, with hopefully some good signings. I think the big shock for me is just how bad they've been with the new signings that have come in. I felt as though that they would have enough to be able to get a decent level of performance together, and that the smoother transfer window, the fact that Erik ten Hag, there's some stability, and the fact that in 14th is just unacceptable. You can't be in 14th after nearly 9-10 games, really, with the level of spend that's occurred, without being under significant pressure, and that's what's happened. I was hoping it would end differently. I think Manchester United fans were hoping that the manager would continue to keep his job, and that the faith that was shown him in the summer would pay off, but it's just not been the case.
Well, there you have it. As you hear Gary also saying, hopefully, he was actually hoping that Erik ten Hag would stay on. However, after this weekend's results, I think they were forced to let him go.
Well, it was untenable. Obviously listeners will know as a Man United fan, so I can talk from that point of view.
Yeah.
I certainly wanted him to succeed. He was the right chap at the time that he was appointed, because he had just led Ajax to great success over a period of time in Holland, right? But it just hasn't worked out for whatever reason. There's a club that is spoken of in the same breath, and my apologies to Arsenal and Man City fans, as well as Liverpool fans, that is spoken of in the same breath as Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Bayern Munich. That's how big Man United are around the world.
Absolutely.
To be where they were last season, 8th on the log, and to be where they are now is completely untenable. And it's not about a penalty that caused it. There's a trend, right? And that he's lowered his expectations of the club. And how can you lower? That is why I've said so before. The problem with Man United now, they're just like Kaizer Chiefs. You cannot have a Kaizer Chiefs becoming a mid-table club and hoping to win the top 8. You can't do that. So for him to glorify winning a League Cup or an FA Cup as the pinnacle of their success is not on. I've always said, even now, Ten Hag can be only judged on 2 things in the next 2 years or 3 years max. Is this the man that will win you a league title? Yes, no. Is this the man that will win you a Champions League title? If this man is not the man to do that, then what is he sitting in your office right now? He cannot be there.
I think for me, the question was, has he lost the dressing room? Because you look at the likes of Arsenal and Manchester City, the body language of the players, as they play, it's like they look at their coach to get whatever instruction that they're receiving from them. But when you look at the body language of the Manchester United players, they hardly looked at him at all. Yeah. So my question was, perhaps he also lost the dressing room in the process?
Well, I mean, possibly. And you know, the point with these type of things, you can always say, well, it's not the coach's fault when players missed 4 big goal-scoring chances on Saturday and Sunday, which they did, by the way, right? But ultimately, the coach is in charge of not just picking the right players for the day, but managing whatever else troubles them. I mean, that's why great coaches, like great leaders in society, we hold on to them. That is why we struggle as a country to replace Nelson Mandela. Yeah. And you've got 5 coaches trying to replace Alex Ferguson. Can you see what I'm talking about?
I get you.
That's why great leadership is your number one acquisition in any organization in the world.
Well, now we wait to see who's going to replace him, and I heard the name Xavi Hernandez put in the hat over there. Will he be the man to replace him? We gotta have to wait and see. But still staying with football, it's a big night tonight for SA goalkeeper Ronwen Williams, who'll be rubbing shoulders with the biggest stars of the game at the Ballon d'Or ceremony tonight. He's nominated for that Yashin Trophy Award, and he is the 4th African keeper to be nominated for the award, and goes up against the likes of Diogo Costa of Portugal and FC Porto, and Emiliano Martinez of Argentina and Aston Villa, amongst others. And remember, previously he did explain that just because he was leading the English votes online, it does not necessarily mean that he's going to win today.
Obviously there's been a link shared, but I think we need to correct the statement that's been going around. It's not solely based on votes only. There is a judging panel, and I think they will have the final say. But I think, the votes can maybe sway the decision as well, because that's why they open the platform for the votes. So, yeah, I'm just happy, that the country is behind me now. I've seen the growth, especially in the voting. And, when we get together as a country, it's amazing. And it's not about Ronwen Williams. It's about, the young kids that I'm seeing outside here, and to inspire them to dream big, And, yeah, I'm just proud and happy that, as South Africans, we're standing behind our own.
So we're wishing him nothing but the best. He left yesterday for France, and we hope that he does well. I know that for this particular award, it is a panel of journalists around the world, 1 journalist per country, and they're looking at the top 100 countries to choose in terms of that panel and who is going to win today. So I'll be interested to see who's going to win that one. But moving on in rugby, the Springboks have been rocked by another injury blow ahead of the end of the year tour. Tight head prop Frans Malherbe also picked up an injury, and he didn't make the trip when the Springboks departed for a training camp in Jersey yesterday. Malherbe was one of the 3 Springboks injured in the Stormers' 28-17 defeat to Glasgow Warriors in Stellenbosch over the weekend, and this camp marks the final preparation before the Boks face Scotland, England and Wales. In golf, the Sunshine Tour will end its year with the Afro-Asia Bank Mauritius Open, a tournament that's had 3 South African champions in its 7 editions to date. Oliver Becker will head to Mauritius, hoping to earn what would be a well-deserved victory in a Sunshine Tour and DP World Tour event, where he has a phenomenal record of consistency. And his record in this tournament includes finishes of 8th, 18th, 9th, 7th, 9th, 7th, and 34th. Finally, in basketball, Golden State Warriors superstar Stephen Curry is set to undergo an MRI scan just to confirm the extent of the ankle injury that he sustained as they lost to LA Lakers 112-104. Now, the 36-year-old first limped out of the game in the third quarter when he received treatment for a wristed ankle. Then Curry returned to the game 4 minutes into the fourth quarter, but immediately aggravated the issue and had to be helped to the locker room by teammate Gary Payton. On that note, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
Okay, more sport coming up.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said,
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed Dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Baye!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Svali weekend on a high note with final analysis on Sunday night. The premium wrap-up show, giving you match highlights, final scores, post-game reactions, expert analysis, and sport news weekend roundup of the local and international arena. Catch final analysis every Sunday at 8 p.m. on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and 10 p.m. on SABC 3. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We've Got It All. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, let's we're certainly going to have lots of comment on the Ukraine issue regarding the visa, and there's also thoughts about guns, but also what seems to be the spate of, I mean, we're already a crime-ridden society, we know that, but there's a spate of mass killings, 5 people, 10 people, 15, like in the last few weeks, and it's completely unacceptable, mainly in township communities. And what do we make of all of that? Perhaps it is in that context that my conversation next is so important, okay? Because we chat now to Professor Somadoda Fikeni, who's the chairperson of the Public Service Commission. Prof. Fikeni, appreciate your time. You are connected to the National Pulse.
Thank you very much, Ashraf. It's very good to hear from you, and greetings to your listeners.
Much appreciate your time. Right now, we talk to you, under this. Well, you heard what I said in the intro, but certainly the issues of whatever it is, we talk about state capacity or a capable state, and we talk to you, I understand, because there's a event that's taking place that starts today, right? Tell me about it.
Yes, we are having a meeting or a workshop with various departments from the Presidency, Auditor General, Department of Public and Administration, National School of Government, and we had the Minister of Public Service and Administration. We do have the World Bank, the United Nations Development Program, and many other experts from universities to say, now that the Cabinet has approved professionalization of public service, how do we make sure that it doesn't suffer the fate of other policy programs it is implemented? So it is a meeting that is about bringing all role players, including Department of Monitoring and Evaluation, to be present and say who will do what role to make sure that this program is implemented. It is at the heart of building that capable state. And that capable state becomes an enabler for implementing all other things that we wish to see. Whether you're fighting corruption, or you're bringing service delivery, or you're trying to improve investment environment, that state capacity is fundamental.
And therefore, these decision makers, well, maybe I'll put it this way, these people who are attending today's summit or conference, are they decision makers as well? Meaning, how much weight and clout do their views and the proposals and the recommendations carry?
They do have the weight, because if you have people from the presidency, it's the president who ultimately sign most of the laws and also who oversee cabinet. And if you have the Department of Monitoring and Evaluation, it is the one that signs performance contracts. It is the one that is actually approving plans from departments. So if they are on board at this stage, they will know exactly what the sentiments, what the decisions of this particular engagement is. If you do have the Department of Public Service and Administration, it is the one that issue regulations. And if you have the National School of Government, they'll know what areas of emphasis in their in-service training are needed. And all those on board, they are very important players. And UNDP World Bank will bring the global perspective, because they do a lot of work across countries to say what has worked, what has not worked, and more importantly, they would help in mobilizing resources in the era when we have these fiscal constraints as a country.
Okay, that's important too. What then about, what is your thoughts rather, when we talk about a capable state? I mean, how capable is the current state of South Africa?
It started very well with good leaders, DGs, ministers, and it was capable with common purpose. That's why at the beginning, the rolling out of RDP houses, the infrastructure, the connectivity, electricity, and so forth, water, came out so well. But at some point, when patronage started taking over, it worked on weakening these very institutions that were in place, and personalities became more important than the systems, and loyalty became more important than merit. So this professionalization is to bring us back to where many succeeding countries, a success formula of meritocracy, of competence being ranked as the most important thing, as well as ethics and integrity for those who are in public service.
Well, you speak about a clear commitment to professionalize the public service, so that's an important point. But can we also take it as a given that if the public service is professionalized and these are not cadre deployments or employments, that things naturally will be better, or is that offside?
It will certainly go a long way in being better, but I always argue that as we professionalize public service, there should be a national conversation about professionalizing our politics as well, so that you do not have a situation where professionals will be in place and those overseeing them and those who are to provide strategic direction are way, way, way below that particular capacity. Let me give you an example. There were reports in the media where they said, in fact, we were also given some of these ourselves. The reports from one province where ward councillors or councillors of the municipality were requesting a certain portion of them to be taught on how to read and write. And yet these are the same people who have to oversee complex projects such as your water engineering, your civil engineering programs, your town planning, your regional planning, and all those kinds of things, and preside over trained professionals. So it is about time 30 years on, when education has been relatively free at a basic level, with many scholarships at a tertiary level, to say, why don't we insist on people who are qualified? Why don't we insist on certain threshold even for those who are to hold leadership positions?
Just the last thing, and it's a very quick answer. The importance of state capacity and its link to overall economic performance. Just link the two in a soundbite answer, if you may.
State capacity is an enabler, which makes it easy for the investors, which makes it easy for monitoring implementation of projects, which makes it easy to do those on time and within the value of money that is given.
And that's where we're going to meet Professor Somadoda Fikeni. Appreciate your time, Chairperson of the Public Service Commission.
Get ready for the biggest night in South African music. Tune in to SABC 1 on the 2nd of November at 8 p.m. for the 30th South African Music Awards, celebrating our finest local talent. Catch the yellow carpet action from 6 p.m. and join us as we honor the legends and voices that shape our sound. For more info, visit samusicawards.co.za. Hashtag Less Noise, More Music. Hashtag Summer 30 in partnership with the SABC.
Okay, we've been talking about it for a few days now, right? And you know that the Eskom prepaid meters, you've been asked to recode your meters by the 24th of November, right? So all Eskom customers are reminded to recode their prepaid meters by the deadline. If your meter is not recoded, it will not accept legally bought prepaid electricity tokens. So now Eskom has made this process easy for you. What you need to do to have pre-coded all meters, and they're certainly ready for you to recode your meters yourself. That's much easier. To do this, you need to go to any Eskom-approved electricity outlet and buy an electricity credit token. And the Eskom teams as well on standby to help you.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, let's talk about another issue that is really, really important, the issue of an accelerated program for children in terms of where they are. Now, Dr. Rose September shares her thoughts on the steps and approach needed for all children, if we say children of the future, that's my words, to achieve optimal well-being and reach their full potential. So there's a 2-day gathering that's just taken place, aimed at ensuring that children have enough, food, love, safety, brain power, and everything else, which is so critical to their personal development, and I would think to the development of our nation as well. Let's get the thoughts of Dr. Rose September, Program Lead of the Accelerated Program of Action for Children in the Presidency. Dr. September, appreciate your time. You are connected to the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon, listeners. And thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. Right. This sounds very, very important. Share with me some of the key thoughts that you have around this issue of children being central to, effectively not just developing the nation, but certainly developing children within the family structure in the first place.
Yes. So the National Strategy for Accelerated Action for Children is not just on paper. It's not a document. The purpose is to harness the whole of society action to really realize the importance for children not only as a moral obligation of society, which it is, but also what investment in children means for our economy and for the eradication of inequality. So the presidency, and I think everybody in our society, Ashraf, would realize that we're not doing well for our children. So there was lack of direction in the sector, although we know there's been significant progress made. We've also seen significant erosion of the progress that we've made critical areas, and we've already seen red alerts pertaining to child poverty, child protection, the nutrition status of children, and all of those alarm bells, including the underperformance in critical well-being outcomes for children, have in fact mobilized and ignited this process in the presidency to call for accelerated action for children. So it had started to harness that collective that collective from society to develop the process. And then, of course, it culminated in the National Children's Sector Consultation, which was held on the 17th and the 18th of October, where we consulted with a broad range of stakeholders. So you want, and
yeah,
of course,
I got that. So perhaps share with us some of the outcomes and maybe the way forward then very quickly.
Okay, so the national strategy includes, in fact, it starts off by saying that we can go ahead and do what we do currently and really be at risk of further erosion in terms of key outcomes for children, or we can do the same but do it better, but we can also accelerate by focusing on 5 key critical outcomes of children that will make an exponential difference in terms of the outcomes that we need to see. Within that context, the NSARC proposes 3 critical things that needs to be done. 1, broadening understanding of what those priorities are. Secondly, building and strengthening our public-private partnerships, including a range of civil society stakeholders, and particularly calling on the private sector, because government itself can't do this. And then thirdly, we need to strengthen our child rights governance systems. That means all the enabling systems and environment systems that must be in place to strengthen and advance child rights in terms of child rights governance framework, which includes our legislation, human resources, institutional mechanisms, our M&E structures, and so on. So it's more than that. It also calls for the central participation of young people within the campaign. And maybe just 2 words around the key priorities that the national strategy proposes. It proposes 10 key critical interventions. Firstly, to support and empower parents to care for their children. Secondly, to reduce infant and child health. Thirdly, to eliminate HIV transmissions to babies, improve child nutrition, grow children's brain power through early learning, prevent disabilities, and of course, give those children with disabilities the same opportunities as other children, and then protect our children and teens from all forms of abuse and violence and substance and perhaps harmful substances.
And maybe here's the last thing as we wrap up.
Yes.
Is there a country similar to our demographic makeup or developmental makeup that's got this right? Just a very quick answer.
Yes, absolutely. If we look at Brazil, and I think internationally, there's a couple of countries that have, in fact, mobilized around a branded program for action for children. If we think about Brazil's Bolsa Familia, Chile, and others, where the whole of society relies that unless we do better and unless we invest more in children who constitute our human capability chain for economic growth and a reduction of inequality, we can't we will not have a future. And we, of course, as South Africans know, what we see in the newspaper daily is not what we want to see for our nation. We can be a better a better nation that focuses on children.
We will leave it at Dr. Rose September, the program lead for the Accelerated Program of Action for Children in the Presidency. It's really such an important issue, isn't it? Let's get the news now. Yes, Madupi, it's 4 o'clock.
Thank you very much, Mr. G. The top story is at 4. Search continues for a group of gunmen in KZN and plans to cushion severe weather conditions in the summer. A very good afternoon. Police say they're working tirelessly to ensure that a group of gunmen who shot and killed 4 people in the Nyezani area in Escort in KZN yesterday are found and arrested. One suspect has so far been arrested. Gunmen opened fire randomly, killing 4 people and wounding 1. Police spokesperson Robert Netsiunda says they believe that the killings are related to stock theft.
There have been an increase in stock theft cases in the area. So committee members came together to try and isolate those who were stealing stock. We believe that suspects could be involved in stock theft cases. So we are following up on strong leads. We are focused on finding suspects and also finding the firearms, because we can't rest when there's somebody on the loose with a firearm of a rifle. And so we need to get hold of that rifle and arrest suspects.
COGTA Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa has announced that the government has contingency plans to minimize the impact of severe weather conditions during the summer season. He says the department has been collaborating closely with the disaster management structures to ensure a coordinated response to the recent heavy rainfall. Briefing the media in Pretoria, Hlabisa says that the department's efforts aim to promote risk reduction measures and to implement a coordinated response to disasters.
We are also working closely with municipalities, the provincial government especially, and other stakeholders to ensure that the affected communities receive necessary support, including food, shelter, and other essential services. The department will continue to monitor the situation and provide support to the affected communities.
Some taxi commuters who use vehicles belonging to the Durban Long Distance Association have been left stranded after operators embarked on an indefinite strike today. Taxi operators are demanding the speedy renewal of their vehicle licenses and have called for an end to their vehicles being impounded. Here are the views of some of the commuters.
It's the worst experience of my life, to tell the truth. I've been on the bus for 18 hours, 30 minutes straight. I arrived at 6 in the morning at the bus station, got here to find that they locked up everything, like nothing is going out of Durban. I haven't bathed ever since yesterday. I feel terrible.
I was supposed to go to court in Ladysmith. There are no taxes, I don't know what to do. I spent over 100 rand to get here from Port Shepstone. Returning to Port Shepstone will be a waste of money.
Begisiza Nzuza is a member of the Durban Long Distance Taxi Association.
We want Shanela to stop impounding our vehicles. Shanela is impounding our vehicles, yet our applications for permits have not been processed. Our vehicles have been impounded at Empangeni, Nongoma, Mahlabatini, and other areas. As long-distance associations, we have decided to go on strike until Shanela stop impounding our vehicles.
The Provincial Transport Department spokesperson Ndabezinhle Sibiya says the permits in question are ready to be collected.
Meeting, there was a commitment on the part of the taxi association to fetch the permits, because there are permits in the department, about 115 permits at that time that were to be issued to them, and he asked them to come and fetch those permits. So I think the ball is in their court.
And in other news, the head of NATO, Mark Rutte, says that the deployment of North Korean troops in parts of Russia's Kursk region, where Ukrainian troops have occupied land, represents a significant escalation in Pyongyang's involvement in the war against Ukraine. Rutte says the deepening ties between Moscow and Pyongyang were a threat to security in the Indo-Pacific and Euro-Atlantic regions. He also reiterated NATO's support for Ukraine after Russia launched its full-scale invasion in February 2022.
NATO allies will continue to support a free and democratic Ukraine because Ukraine's security is our security. Today we discussed the need to further strengthen military support to Ukraine. We are actively consulting within the alliance, with Ukraine and with our Indo-Pacific partners on these developments.
The top story at 4 o'clock, police say they're working tirelessly to ensure that a group of gunmen who shot and killed 4 people in the Nyezani area in Escort, KZN yesterday are found and arrested. For SAFM News,
And coming up in your sports this hour, Manchester United analyse 5 names to replace Ten Hag. Kgotso Mokoena launches a development skills program for athletes, and Kirsten resigns as Pakistan's white ball coach. More details at 4:30.
SAFM.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg, slow moving towards Crown Interchange. The N1 northbound is queuing at Buccleuch Interchange. In Sandton, Grayston Drive eastbound, slow moving at Linden Street, and Sandton Drive westbound, slow moving towards Winnie Mandela Drive. And Eskem Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Mood Street. In KZN, Inanda Road westbound slow moving in the Peter Road area, Umgeni Road westbound is slow moving through Springfield Park, and Umgeni Road northbound queuing towards Collins Street. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound is slow moving towards the Okavango Road exit, the M3 southbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Racecourse Road exit, and the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound has a crash reported at Hospital Bend. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Hey there! Need to know your TV license balance but don't want to wait? No sweat! Just send a quick SMS with your ID or TV license number to 44210. Remember, standard SMS rates apply. And presto, your balance pops right up anytime, anywhere. It's as easy as pie. So why procrastinate? Give it a try and get your info in a flash. T's and C's apply.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said,
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed Dance. I saw the maidens handing over wreaths to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Bayede!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
SAFM will be hosting its annual Breast Cancer Awareness Roundtable on The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana on Wednesday, the 30th of October 2024 at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center in Boksburg. For an opportunity to join the roundtable, email your name and surname to info@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
While someone talks about a rebuilding for Manchester United Football Club, certainly one of the most famous and followed football clubs in the world, I suppose the same applies to the African National Congress in terms of where they are as a political party. Now, today, the ANC unveiled the ANC Foundation Course Program, which the party says will act as the foundation stone for the renewal of the ANC. And there's 5 modules, which we will talk about in a moment. But first things first, let me bring in political analyst Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast on the line. Thanks for joining us. Okay, in fact, we'll get to him in a minute. What we'll do then, let me play some of the sound that's come through from today's conference. One of them is from the President, Ramaphosa, who speaks about the political school, and that school is really there to school people out of factionalism.
So political education is going to help in many, many ways. It's going to enable our members to be confident in doing their work. It's going to broaden their own understanding and give them tools of analysis, as Comrade Phoebe and Comrade Besani was also saying. And this is a great moment. We've resolved at a number of conferences on various occasions that the training of our members, the political education of our members should be paramount. And today, at a very top national level, we are giving effect to that, and it is going to be spread throughout the organization. And this is now going to happen in reality. We've got a driver, we've got drivers, and we are now going to duplicate all that in the provinces, in the regions, and in all areas and at branch level. And in some of our conferences, we even declared years as the years of the cadre. And work was done, but it was not thorough. And this is the time when the ANC really gets to grips with what political education should be. Now, there is evidence that when we do spread political education, our comrades become much sharper, much more committed, and it also sharpens and straightens out the ethics and the morals and the values of our organization. It enables comrades to even rid our organization of tendencies such as factionalism. It rids our organization of deviant tendencies that could prevail, because in the main, comrades will now be focusing more and more on the real issues that affect our organization.
Okay, how convincing is the ANC's President Ramaphosa around that issue? He also continued saying that the political school, that the ANC political school in this case, will get the ANC back to its glory days.
This will help in ensuring that our comrades, in addressing the challenges of our people, are able to demonstrate depth, able to demonstrate knowledge, and are able to analyze all problems in greater depth and with good understanding as well. So this decision, Comrade Makura and Comrade SG and others at Luthuli House, is a really revolutionary decision, walking in the footsteps of our leaders of past, and it is going indeed to take the ANC to another level. And working together with rebuilding the organization, ensuring that we renew the organization, its moral integrity, adherence to its values, and with political education, we are going to be well armed with all the weapons that we need to ensure that we take this organization to another level. In the end, political education must be like recharging our batteries. Cheers. Recharging our batteries, because every battery needs to be recharged, and I would like to invite all of us to participate in this tried and trusted method of cadre development with great commitment, with great excitement to make sure that we strengthen the organization. Comrade SG, I am certain that armed with this, the ANC is going to emerge much stronger in every respect. ANC is going to be able to go back to the effectiveness that O.R. Tambo spoke about, to have an effective machinery that will be able to address the challenges, but more importantly, the needs of our people.
Right, there we are. That's the president of the ANC, Cyril Ramaphosa, right now. We do have Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast online now. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it as always.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. So first things first, the ANC talks about the ANC Foundation course program. Is there a need for that? Right, do we have you there? Is there a need for an ANC Foundation course program? That's my question, and we can't get an answer for the moment from Dr. Breakfast until we sort some of the technical issues that are plaguing us. Let's see if we can do that now.
Hi everyone, my name is Itumeleng Khune, SABC Sport football analyst. When I feel down and I listen to gospel, it gives me motivation. I'm a person who loves all genres. If I was a chef, my favorite meal that I would prepare would be pap, cabbage, meaty bones, with a bit of acha on the side. My favorite language is Portuguese. Bom dia, como está? Estou bem. What I like about SABC Sport is they give you the platform and the permission to be yourself and speak any language.
Catch the ever-passionate Itumeleng Khune's analysis of Bola Letu on match days, live on Latuma. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, we now, I understand, do have Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast on the line. Third time lucky, I hope. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, so my question I put to you is the launch of this ANC Foundation course program. Is there a need for it from the ANC perspective?
Of course, there is a need for that because political education is a lifeblood of any revolutionary organization. It is extremely important. I mean, the ANC has been dealt with a blow in a big way of late due to a number of reasons. But one of them is the absence of political education. Because, I mean, if people are showcasing ill discipline, it means that they have not assimilated the ethos of the party or what the party stands for. So I fully concur with the diagnosis of the party and the rationale behind the rolling out of this offering. I don't know whether the modules will be credit bearing or not, but it's a wonderful idea.
So hasn't the ANC had political schooling in some form or the other before? I'm sure it has.
I don't think it has been up and running. I don't think that it did achieve its intended objective. You can't have a revolutionary organization without a theoretical clarity in terms of what the party seeks to achieve. Especially, I know the ANC is not a leftist organization. The vanguard is the Communist Party. Though the ANC describes itself as a disciplined force of the... I mean, I would argue and say what has happened in the ANC since the early 90s has been that because the ANC has had proximity to power, it has recruited all sorts of people, even people who are not about what the ANC seeks to achieve in terms of transforming society. So the ANC has recruited people who have not been fused into the ideological framework of the party.
Okay, that's a good point. Because of their proximity to power, that may well have changed or made it easier for people to want to join that party. Do you therefore see things now have changed? Because they're still in power, but they're part of a power sharing agreement, which is very different.
Yes, now the ANC is in a political arrangement with the DA. It is not having a grip of power. But I think in trying to bounce back to power, I think this is a step towards the right. But then I think there is a need to stress the nexus between theory and practice, because then you don't want to have armchair philosophers or philosophers of war. But you have to have comrades who understand what the party seeks to achieve.
Okay, I noticed that the requirement is that all current ANC members, new and old, will have to attend physically and complete 5 modules of the foundation course, and that's by 2026. So in 2 years, right? And the school, the foundation will talk about obviously history of the ANC, vision of the ANC, country and the world we live in, the constitution, the work of the ANC branches, and the tasks and conduct of ANC members. Is there anything missing out from that list of top 5?
Well, I mean, I think the packaging, in my view, is good. I'm not saying that it's perfect, because I think what they are trying to do is to lay a theoretical foundation for ANC members. Because if people are deviating from the ethos or from what the party stands for, I think one can make the argument that maybe some people don't know what the ANC is about. No wonder they are engaging in corrupt tendencies. So inculcating these values, I think, will go a long way, especially amongst the new members of the ANC.
So you give it a thumbs up, yeah?
Yes, of course, but then there's a qualification to that. I also think that one must strike a balance, because there's a need for a nexus between theory and practice. The two, they go together.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast, who's a political analyst. What do you make of the ANC's political school? In fact, should all political parties have a political school? In fact, do they have a political school? And have you been a part of it? I'd like to know. We're going to get your calls pretty shortly, I can tell you. WhatsApp, text or voice notes 0614 104 107, or to call in 086 000 2032. Let's get an update of the Senzo Meyiwa trial on a significant day today.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
So in fact, not just today, but Saturday marked exactly 10 years since Senzo Meyiwa was shot and killed in Vosloorus in Ekurhuleni. Now, the murder trial itself has continued today. Let's get the thoughts of Pearl Magumane, who will explain what's been happening. Pearl, appreciate your time. Hi.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and to the listeners.
Thank you. So first of all, I mean, maybe courts are devoid of emotions, but 10 years since his passing, Senzo Meyiwa, do you get a sense that it was a bit more of an emotional day compared to normal?
Well, I guess, all the family needs, or what everybody needs at this point, is just to get to the finality of this case. When I was thinking about the 10 years, I was reflecting on being at the actual scene then, and it wasn't cordoned off, and we weren't quite sure what was going on. So going back to then, and the memorial services and the family back then, thinking that they would get answers, because we had a couple of police officers and commissioners that came out then to say, they put the best team on, and they should arrest the suspect soon. However, the arrests were only made in 2020.
Tell me what else happened today, that was covered?
Well, today, Diagenenda just went through how they linked one of the accused number 1, to the crime. One saying that, cell phone evidence places him around the Katlehorn and Vosloorus area on the day of the murder. And there's various transactions that happened around that period. Now, this is because accused number 1 had denied being in Gauteng, saying that he was living in KwaZulu-Natal at that time and only came back to the province in 2015. However, there's various bank records or transactions, such as per se, that say that he was around the Vosloorus, in the Ekurhuleni area and in Johannesburg transacting. So, it can't be that the same person was in KZN at the time.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to share?
He's going to go through the connection of how accused number one is linked to the other suspects. We do know that he's responsible for one of the confession statements, although he's denied it previously, saying that he was forced and tortured into signing and he did not know the content of that. So Brigadier Ganenda is supposed to just paint quite a picture or a web of, linking everybody and how they got to the conclusion that these are the correct suspects.
Okay, let's leave it at Pearl Magubani, the SABC News reporter covering the Senzo Meyiwa trial, and this past weekend marked 10 years since he was shot and killed in the Ekurhuleni region in Vosloorus Rus. Right, let's see if I can get to some of your voice notes, and predictably there's lots of comment about the ANC NEC firstly.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf Mataboge. Ashraf, I think the decision taken by the NEC of ANC, if it is going to be implemented, it will truly bring about quality within the organization. We remember during our days, we used to attend training at Elijah Bahai. People were trained properly, and we gained knowledge. We were able to deal with issues accordingly. So therefore, the issue about schooling of comrades and making them leaders of a better quality, this is the right direction ANC has taken, as long as that can be implemented and be honored by everyone. Thank you.
Those last lines are so important. Implementation and honored by everyone. I just wonder.
Yeah, good afternoon, Ashraf. I'm Takata in Cape Town. Concerning this organophosphate, Ashraf, I don't believe this, because there is rats everywhere in South Africa, because even if you can go to those towns, there are those people living in the street, they are just littering everywhere. So the bins there are also dirty. Rare to find a proper clean place in South Africa, but you cannot find the dead organophosphate in the supermarkets. You ask yourself why. No, this thing of organophosphate, I think to me is just a cover up. The kids are killed by the poison food that these guys are making themselves, because they are not buying from the proper wholesales. Thanks.
Okay, there we are. Organophosphate, talking about those children being poisoned and died. A really horrific story. And there's been just too many like that. So thanks for giving us your thoughts. Let's get another opinion in the Eastern Cape this time with Anonymous. Hello.
Good day, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, yep.
How do you do? Ashraf, briefly, this business about corporal punishment not being in our schools is a hypocrisy. Our children are beaten with blackboard dusters on their knuckles. They're pinched. There needs to be an investigation, sir. You get the lady from the DA who runs the education now to initiate an investigation, and it's easy to get the truth out of the kids too. It's actually a hypocrisy. I don't just believe in corporal punishment. I mean, as a youngster at school, in my third term in Standard 9, I think I got 58 caning. But it needs to be done in an orderly fashion and a systematic way. Beating children on their knuckles with blackboard dusters is a travesty, sir.
Okay. How did you get to 58 canings, by the way?
Sorry, sir?
How did you get to 58 canings? Seriously.
I don't want to take it.
Well, there you are. I don't expect you to talk about it.
I've got a minute with you, sir. It will take a long time.
Well, there we are. All right. Thanks for that call. 58 canings in 1 year. Oh, my goodness, man. That's more points than Man United collected the entire season, I think, right?
Hi, good afternoon, Ashraf. Thanks for the good show. My name is William. With regard to Manchester United firing Erik ten Hag, I don't think that is the solution. Although he contributed to their downfall, but with the current crop of players that are at Manchester United, I don't see them going anywhere. They need to invest in young players, young talented players. You see, like what is happening at Chelsea with an average age of about 24 years. You know, when those guys reaches about 27, 28, I'm telling you, Chelsea will be unstoppable. So Manchester United, they need to invest in talented young players. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Well, okay, you've given us your thoughts. We'll probably talk more about it in the sports bulletin with Tumi coming up pretty shortly. Let's get the news headlines. It's 4:30. Years Madupi.
Much, Uncle Ash, and good afternoon. In your headlines, new research by the World Meteorological Organization says the concentrations of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere accumulated faster last year than at any other time in human history. Police say they are working tirelessly to ensure that a group of gunmen who shot and killed 4 people in the Nyazani area in Escort, KZN yesterday are found and arrested. And conflict on the continent and globally, as well as gender issues, migration and youth unemployment are some of the challenges facing Africa's working population that were discussed at an event hosted by the Institute for African Alternatives in Cape Town. And those are your headlines. Greg will have your full update, 5 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown Interchange. Sandton Drive westbound is slow moving towards Winnie Mandela Drive, and Eskem-Patleli Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Mood Street. In KZN, the N3 eastbound in Camperdown has a stationary truck near Mlaus Road, and Inanda Road westbound slow moving in the Peter Road area. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound slow moving towards Yiptiyaga Avenue, the M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, and the M3 southbound slow moving towards Racecourse Road exit. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
So, to me, early on we spoke about the breaking story of the sacking of Erik ten Hag as the coach of, or the manager of Manchester United. What has stopped that since?
Well, we're still talking about that, and Manchester United are reportedly have a short list of around 5 managers as possible replacement for sacked Erik ten Hag. However, having Ruud van Nistelrooy in interim charge will offer the leadership team the time and space to follow a thorough process in appointing the next manager. And in terms of those names that are making rounds, obviously Ruud now, he's going to step in. And in terms of his experience, he has only 2 seasons in senior management, but did a steady job at PSV in the 2022-23 season before resigning there. Then there's Xavi Hernandez, who has been long linked with this job, having led his old club Barca to the La Liga title in the 2022-23 season, despite their various off-field issues. Then there's Gareth Southgate, who Sir Jim Ratcliffe reportedly admires his work, and he's been out of work since July. However, we also heard from him saying that he's only preparing himself to be back in whatever job that he's going to get next year. So I wonder if that rules him out. There's Ruben Amorim, who did wonders at Sporting Lisbon, winning the Portuguese League in the 2020-21 and 2023-24 seasons, their first titles in 2 decades. And then also Julian Nagelsmann, who led Germany to the Euro 2024 quarterfinals before a narrow defeat by France. So as a Manchester United, Ashraf, who do you think amongst those 5 could be the right one for Manchester United?
Seriously, if I speculate now, it's as if I'm in the same WhatsApp group as all of them, and I don't know. So I can't tell you who it'll be.
But as a fan, who would you like to see?
You tell us your Benny McCarthy story. I think it's so interesting.
Oh, so basically I was saying, if Benny McCarthy didn't leave Manchester United, because remember, Ruud came in for him, he probably could be the one that is standing in.
Even for 2 games, you're right.
Even if for 2 games.
That would, because Benny McCarthy's dream club was to play for Man United.
Yeah.
A long time. Come on, Ben, you should have stuck around, man. There we are. Okay.
Listen, we don't know if they let him go or he decided to leave, but let's just leave it there. Still staying with football, Sekhukhune United coach Luthono Lesiema says that they have an immediate opportunity to bounce back in the Betway Premiership when they host Richards Bay tomorrow night in Polokwane. Babinano could drop points in the defeat to Royal AM on Saturday, a game that was proved to the thin margins in the domestic league, and Siema says that he has hopes that they can return to winning ways.
It's very difficult. Like we're seeing, the margins are very small. So that is why I said that we need to go back to our structure and try to look at our structure. If we cannot win the game, let us not win it. If we cannot win the game, let us not lose it. So we really try to work hard and look at ourselves very hard, and we will do that. We will do that. It's not like is that everybody's new and everything is new or everything is falling apart. It's a wake-up call, this one. At least we have a reference that where we say that, look, if you are not going to rectify certain things, we're really going to have a problem. At the moment, there'll be a lot of jumps and downs and up and downs.
Then South African athletics legend Kgotsong Mokoena has launched a development skills program called YASDI, Youth Athletics Skills Development Institution. Now, this initiative aims to assist high school and university learners as well as professional athletes in making decisions that will benefit them in the long run, even after they retire from sports. Now, the 2008 Olympic long jump silver medalist seeks to empower, elevate, and support both aspiring and established athletes by providing opportunities for life during and after their sports career. And he has encouraged the young athletes to join the initiative to gain valuable knowledge and learn strategies that will assist them in their post-retirement life.
My advice to athletes, especially young athletes who are already doing well right now, accumulating all these medals, getting all these good finances through winning. My advice to the youngsters, especially, particularly those who are still in school, whether in high school or still in university or college or technikon, my advice is that come into YASDI. Learn about the skills that can assist you to sustain yourself. I was also an Olympian in high school in Athens. I was still in high school when I went to Athens in 2004. Right? Yeah. And in 2003, I was still in high school when I won the silver and the bronze for the All-African Games in Nigeria in Abuja, making history. I was an athlete and I was in school also, going to the Olympics. My advice is that start building yourself right now.
So you can just go to the yasdi.co.za if you want to join this program, and also you can also apply for a scholarship to be part of this program. I think it's a brilliant idea, and I hope that it goes well for Kgotsong Mokoena. Then in cricket, Gary Kirsten has resigned as Pakistan's limited overs coach after 6 months in the role. Kirsten was appointed on a 2-year contract in April, and Test coach Jason will be in charge for the white ball tour of Australia, which starts next week. Pakistan face Australia in 3 one-day internationals starting on the 4th of November before 3 T20 internationals. On that note, it's a wrap from my side. I'll have more in the next hour.
Just call Benny. Send him, please call me. We need to talk to him. All right.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
What's good? This is DJ Akio representing Strictly Soul, Africa's biggest R&B party. I want to remind y'all to tune in on November 2nd for the Sama Awards on SABC1, Mzansi for sure. Red carpet 7:30, main event at 8 o'clock. I'll see y'all there. Peace.
Celebrate 30 years of music with the Summer Awards. Saturday 2 November. Yellow carpet starts at 7:30 p.m. and the main awards at 8 p.m. on SABC1.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, we have with us Makwe Masilela, as always, of course. He's the Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Good to connect with you. Let's talk about, local global markets in a moment. But first up, important news with regard to Pick n Pay's interim results, right?
Yep, afternoon to you and to the listeners, Ashraf, and it was great that the guys that are committed to strengthen the board independence, and they managed, remember, to raise 4 billion rands in new capital. That was the rights issue, and Boxer remained their star performer, growing sales by 12% and still on track to be listed separately by end of 2024, and there was solid momentum in their clothing and online business, and clothing gained further market share, sales growth of 9.8%, and it's not surprising as clothing has always been doing well Hence, their competitors like ShopRite also started their standalone, closing shops. Group turnover up 3.7%, but their losses widened by 16.3% and also impacted by the increased number of shares issued because of that rights offer. And this week, investors are likely to remain on the edge as it's the final week in markets ahead of U.S. presidential elections and Fed's rate decision that is next week, Tuesday and Thursday. And locally on Wednesday, we will be getting our first GNU mid-term budget. And China reported their worst industrial profit numbers since the pandemic, plunging almost 27% in September. Market participants, Ashraf, are digesting a cooling geopolitical situation in the Middle East, also eyeing a batch of mega cap technology earnings, and also falling oil prices are helping to lift the risk appetite, and oil prices tumbling after Israel strikes against Iran at the weekend bypassed oil and nuclear facilities, and that didn't disrupt energy supplies, and dragging session price down below 100 rands earlier in the session. Brent crude is down 4.5% at $72 a barrel, and the yellow metal is flat, held back by a firmer dollar and higher yields, while traders are waiting for guidance on the next U.S. interest rate move. And we see gold is at 2,747, but platinum is up 0.5% at 1,029, and markets trading positively with the local boss up 0.7%, and the rand weakened almost 0.4% against the dollar. It's now 17.71, 22.99 against the pound, and 19.16 against the euro.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for that. We'll have another update, certainly from you next tomorrow, in fact, Mark Webb, but for the markets update coming up in about 45 minutes or so. Right, let's get to your calls.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, lots of comment. In fact, greetings. Much money is spent on education or educating prisoners. Why not educate all, including persons wanting to follow political history? Too many barriers for education. But should that come from government or the political parties concerned? But that sounds like an advert, right? Okay, further comments. Tabo in Germiston, go for it.
Good afternoon, Ashraf.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm very good indeed, Tabo. Go ahead.
Good man. Yeah, Ashraf, I want to talk about Somadoda Figeni. You know, the good prof that you just interviewed.
Yeah.
You know, on radio regarding professionalization of the public service. You know, we have been hearing this, Ashraf, for the past 30 years. You know, for the past 30 years, we've been hearing professionalization. It's like an old song with a number of scratches, you know. You know, Dr. Somadoda Figeni, they must start taking people serious. You know, things have gone from bad to worse, and they keep on professionalizing the public service. Things have become so bad. If you're talking, you know, service delivery, and you know, it's bad.
No, but I mean, to be fair, you know, Somadoda Figeni has not been in charge of government or the Public Service Commission.
No, but he's
there now.
The Public Service Commission, yeah.
Yes, he's there now, but he's not suggesting that what has been done before has been working all these years. This is a solution that's been put on their table now to implement. Maybe the bigger question is why did we take this long in all these years to professionalize the public service, and will it actually work? I mean, I'm just saying that's what he's brought to the table now, but it's certainly not like he's the only person who's brought it all together, right?
But there has to be implementation, Ashraf. I hear you. But now there has to be this culture of talk, you know, over and over again. It must come to an end. People are suffering on the ground. Food, it's very expensive. Petrol is expensive. Unemployment is very high. You go to government departments, municipalities, and check service delivery out there. It's horrible. It's horrible, and we can't even sugarcoat it, Ashraf.
Well, I completely concur with you. Yeah, okay, let's leave it at that. I got that. I think you're right. That is why the professionalization of the public service is critical. How they implement, let's see about that. But there's no question at this point in time, in terms of service delivery or the absence of service delivery from national going all the way down to, you know, local communities is so apparent. It is, in fact, indefensible. Like how you can't defend a football club's non-performance over many years and they fall to mediocrity. You can say what you want, hoo-ha, every day. It is indefensible. Tabo, thanks for that call. Vuyiswa in Parktown, go ahead.
Yes, thanks, Ashraf, taking my call. I want to comment on the ANC renewal project, whatever school of political school.
That school foundation, essentially.
Yes,
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think the president knows what he's talking about, because the ANC has got a lot of cadres. Some of us who grew up in Exile that went to advanced political schools, who are neglected. They don't even want to talk to them unless they change their attitude at Luxury House. Because, for instance, people can't access Piggy's office, can't access the president himself. He doesn't know what is happening on the ground. And I don't know where they're going to start with this political school. And my predicament is that yesterday they went to my father, we used to call him grandpa, uncle, a leader, or Artambo, to lie there, but they did not blame the what called.
Well, I mean, the plan is the political school will run for 2 years, and every
Where?
not some. Well, we don't know the details as yet, but every ANC member, young and old.
What about those who were educated and graduated in this political
Well, I'm only
school?
telling you what I heard. They said every ANC member has got to go
you
through.
know what, Ashraf, you guys must interrogate them. The reason why I'm calling you here is because you can't get them on their phones. Their phones are never there for the ANC members.
Okay.
If people like us struggle to get hold of them, what about an ordinary ANC
Well,
member?
I concur with you. Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'm certainly, when the opportunity comes up now, we'll certainly talk to them. But it's the opening thoughts. I mean, do you think this ANC foundation will in effect work, or this political school that has been spoken about before in different forms? But it's compulsory for every ANC member, young and old, over a 2-year period to sit through 5 modules. Oh my goodness, right? Okay, we've got Lorraine in KZN. Hi, Lorraine.
Hi, Ashraf, to you and the listeners.
Thank
Good
you.
afternoon.
Hi,
Thanks for taking my call.
It's a pleasure. Go ahead.
Excuse me for being the eternal optimist at this stage, but no, I don't believe that ANC can right the wrongs of the past, because it's gone on for too long. The elections proved it, and I don't think many people are going to want to change. And I'm not being negative. I'm just considering the options that are out there. Everyone can see them. And goodness knows when they'll renew themselves. It's not just cheap talk. They'll probably get those programs started, but it starts inherently with the people who are going to have to carry out those political changes, or whatever you want to call it.
Well, I think you're right. I think the key part is who's going to be teaching the teachers. So in this case here, who will head up the modules? Will they be part of the ANC, or will they be outside of the ANC? How much clout does that person have to... I mean, clearly there's ANC theory that's going to be discussed, but other theories... So ANC theory is simple, but other theories are, around, leadership, right? And ethics. So the point is, does that come from an ANC person or from somebody on the outside? We do now know that the head of this political school is a former Gauteng premier, right? That's David Makura. So he's currently the head now of the political school of education. But again, the practicalities, I think we have to see, and who do they actually use. So thank you for that call, Lorraine. Right, there is certainly more opinions on the ANC Foundation.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and my fellow SFM listeners. This is Whiskey from Limpopo. Ashraf, to answer the question that you are asking the analyst in Ntsikelelo, in saying that do we need the foundation course in the ANC? Yes, we do. I'm speaking from the experience of being a branch chairperson of the ANC with over 350 members. You can tell that this is the kind of equipment or tool that will ensure that the ANC returns back to its glorious days. Thank you.
Okay, there we are. So, well, I think you've just said it the way many people see it, right? Let's pick up on the conversation we had earlier about visas. Ukraine, that is.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is Makwarela Chinyazo from Tayambo. Ashraf, this is what happens when 2 biggest political parties try to form a coalition government. They will start to work against each other, counter each other. This is what is happening between the ANC and the DA. You know, you can clearly see that the DA is trying to create their own parallel government within the GNU. They don't submit to Ramaphosa, and they don't see him as their president. You know, this is exactly, that is portraying out, that is happening here. You know, and for the DA to say that they will offer the free visas to the Ukrainian diplomats who want to come to South Africa, this is just like another way of reacting to what the President Ramaphosa said to Putin in Russia.
Okay, well, you know, do they want to get rid of the president? I think what's very clear is the DA does see how they govern in whichever way as a shop window. It's something myself and Keys and Timber, our production team, spoke about it off air the other day. They know it's a shop window in the same way that Gaten McKenzie knows it's a shop window. It's the same way that, Rise Mzansi sees what they do at Scopa as a shop window. Everyone sees that. The question is, to what degree do they deliver the goods in the shop window, at the same time convincing people to vote for them, beyond now into the next election and still be part of a GNU.
Good day, Ashraf. I have listened to Dr. Tsigelelo Breakfast for a very long time. I've never heard him not making so much sense like today. Let's go straight. Does he mean that Nosiviwe Nqakula, who's this guy now, Zizi Kodwa, were involved in corruption because they don't understand the ethos of the ANC? Frankly, ANC does not need some education. Lutando, yeah.
Frankly, it doesn't need some education. What exactly do you mean by that? Well, look, let's consider that. What we'll do is one thing we all need, I think, is the issue of time management. And we have this feature called personal growth. And one of the things we'll talk about today is time management.
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the tooth fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does everyone at your company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul.
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampo on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
And I'll certainly get more opinions. I'll tell you what, if you think not political school for the ANC, then what? Like, what would you do to the ANC right now? It does need a major rethink, not just what happens on the upper echelons of the political party, certainly at grassroots. So when we talk about an academy, in terms of sport, for example, what's the equivalent of an academy in terms of a political party? What solutions would you give it? Not so much what they've decided on, I'd like to know. Right, every Monday we have a feature called Personal Growth, and today one of the big issues as we try and encourage you to personally grow as well is how do you manage your time? Time management, such a big deal, don't you think so, right? My guest is Juanri Potgieter, a senior industrial psychologist at the Northwest University's Potch campus. Juanri Potgieter, appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting to the National Pulse. The key word, of course, I've used is time, right?
Thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here this afternoon.
Thank you. So let me ask you this, time management, is it such a big deal?
I must say yes. It is really such a big deal. I've been working in the mental health industry and the higher education industry for many years. And, one of the most important things I see is that if we do manage our time and if we do make it a big deal, we are able to get where we want to. But if we don't necessarily get where we want to and achieve what we want to do.
So are you saying that there's clear evidence that those that manage the time, because we only have 24 hours in a day and we have to do a lot of things, right, including sleep, for example, they are more successful at what? At achieving their goals than those that don't manage their time?
Yes, definitely. I think that when we think about time management, I just want to talk a little bit, just to quickly inform about the flip side of the coin of time management. When we don't manage our time, because I think we are always thinking, yes, great, it's best to manage our time, but when we don't manage our time, we experience numerous physiological effects. And when we think about, or there's this one expert, Dr. Daniel Amen, he's an expert psychiatrist and a brain disorder specialist. He speaks about all those effects, and he tells us, yes, it's we might not feel the effect of not managing our time right now, but we feel it much later in life. And we don't necessarily have the physiological or the emotional resources or capabilities to deal with it. So it is really important for us as individuals to manage our time, because, yes, when we do, we are able to achieve our dreams. We have this good, full quality of life and a productive life, I think, which is what we all want. And we don't just want to get by. We don't just want to be in survival mode and in this nature versus nurture mode. We want to be able to excel at life and really do what we are designed to do.
So give me an example. When we say, time management, let me not assume that I know. How does one, time manage?
So I think it's first of all very important that we as individuals, we need to decide what is really important in life. What do we really value? Because ultimately, when you think about it, whatever you say yes to in life, you say no to something else. And we don't always count the cost of that. So when we think about managing time, we need to decide what is it that we really want in life, because we cannot be the sports athlete and the this and the that and the cook and the this and the that. We choose some speciality fields or aspects of life that we really excel in. So for us, it is, when we effectively time manage, we establish that productive routine that works for us. We are able to say no to certain things, even if it's against the monetary cost, because it might not be part of our value system or our priorities.
But now, when you say, establish a routine, I'm suggesting that many people listening to us right now, they've got their time management sorted out. When you say establish a routine, they know exactly how they're going to do so, and they do it anyway. The bigger problem is, how does a person who has no routine, who can't establish a routine, and that's why that person is not managing his or her time, be asked to manage his or her time when they don't have their own template? I mean, so simply saying manage your routine may not work for them. They need an actual template.
Yes. In that aspect, we can look at the 5 P's of time management, for example, something that's practical. When we look at prioritizing, write it down. When we have to look at a routine, what's also important, we have to determine or understand when is our productive cycle. So when we are most productive in the morning, that's the time we need to do what is most important, most urgent, most difficult. So prioritize. There's an Eisenhower matrix that we speak about in psychology. It speaks about the urgent and non-urgent and important or non-important, that you have to sort of put your things into categories. And when the person who establish a great routine, what they have is they physically write down what do they want to achieve, what do they want to do. Why do we write things down? So the prefrontal cortex gets activated when we write things down, which is our higher order thinking. So that means it speaks about or speaks to our decision making and our planning. So it helps us into the doing mode.
Okay, so writing down is one thing. How then done? Often, I can also write down 10 things, and often I do when I land up at 5 and I get distracted. How does one ensure that what you've written down, you will actually act on that day?
Importantly, plan. So you need to plan, what am I going to do first? Allocating time slots for everything. Then you need to prepare yourself. So you need to get resources, what will make it make it easier for you to do it. A checklist that you can check things off. It's also important for you to have that moments of intense focus. So focus on, and it's like the gym. We don't wake up motivated. It takes time for us to persist and to sometimes do the things we don't always want to do to be able to achieve the things we want to do. So there's sorry, continue.
No, carry on. Maybe just as we get to news time, is there one last bit of advice you can share with us around managing your time?
I think if I can, two aspects I'll elaborate or quickly speak about. When you are chasing a big dream, when you are thinking about time management and what you really want to achieve in life, it's there's this principle of the thirds. A third of the time, you should feel great about what you are doing and managing your time. A third of the time, it should sometimes feel, okay, I might not be on the right track, but I'm still on track. And a third of the time, it may feel like I'm not managing time well. Everything, all the balls that I'm juggling in the air is falling out of my hand. I'm not managing. And that is okay. But then to come back to, to ground yourself to say, okay, let's focus on decreasing this equilibrium. What's important is structure. You need to have structure because structure brings stability.
Okay, let's leave it at that. If I don't end now, I will be accused with our news anchor, Greg Host, of saying, Ashraf, you're not managing your time. So appreciate you giving off your time, Joanri Potgieter. Let's get the news now. It's 5 o'clock with Greg Host.
Thank you, Ashraf, as time goes by. In this news update, shocking new research on greenhouse gases and focus on challenges facing Africa's working population. Good day to you. New research by the World Weather Organization says concentrations of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere accumulated faster last year than at any time in human history. It says it peaked last year, largely because of an increase in wildfires, the onset of El Nino, and the ongoing reliance on fossil fuels. Scientist Oksana Tarasova spoke at a news conference in Switzerland.
Actually, we have not seen these levels of CO2 in the history of humanity. The problem with CO2 is that it is a very long-lived greenhouse gas. It stays in the atmosphere for thousands of years, and even if you stop emissions right now, it will drive climate change towards the equilibrium.
The Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Velenkosini Hlapis has announced that government has established contingency plans to minimize the impact of severe weather conditions during the summer season. He briefed the media in Pretoria.
We are also working closely with municipalities, the provincial government especially, and other stakeholders to ensure that the affected communities receive necessary support, including food, shelter, and other essential services. The department will continue to monitor the situation and provide support to the affected communities.
Police say they're working tirelessly to ensure the group of gunmen who shot and killed 4 people at Escort in KwaZulu-Natal are found and arrested. 1 suspect so far been arrested in connection with the murders. Gunmen opened fire randomly, killing 4 people and wounding another. Police spokesperson Robert Netchaunda says they believe the killings are related to stock theft.
There have been an increase in stock theft cases in the area, so committee members came together to try and isolate those who were stealing stock. We believe that suspects could be involved in stock theft cases, so we are following up on strong leads. We are focused on finding suspects and also finding the firearms, because we can't rest when there's somebody on the loose with a firearm of a rifle. And so we need to get hold of that rifle and arrest suspects.
2 suspects have appeared in the Bishop Lavis Magistrates Court on the Cape Flats in connection with a mass shooting that occurred in the area in which 7 people were killed. The matter was heard in camera because one of the suspects is 17 years old. Police have confirmed that 2 people have been charged in connection with the shooting. The matter has been postponed to the 1st of November for a bail application. Conflicts on the continent and globally, as well as gender issues, migration and youth unemployment, are some of the challenges facing Africa's working population and have been discussed at an event hosted by the Institute for African Alternatives in Cape Town. Professor Sumangala Damodaran is the Director of Feminist Economics and Working Life for the Ideas Network at the Institute of Human Development in India.
How do we look at questions like migration, for example, where we look at racialization, gendering, and social discrimination as fundamentally structuring our societies and therefore affecting all of those processes. So not as a add race and stir or add women and stir, but how do gendering systems, for example, fundamentally structure how migration is happening?
The top story, the new research by the World Weather Organization says concentrations of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere accumulated faster last year than at any time in human history. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Close.
And coming up in your sports this hour, big night for Williams as Ballon d'Or ceremony takes center stage tonight. And Kgotso Mokoena launches a development skills program for athletes. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound has a stationary truck reported at Buccleuch Interchange. The M1 southbound is slow moving through Crown Interchange towards Boysons. Santon Drive westbound slow moving towards Winnie Mandela Drive. The N1 northbound in Midrand is slow moving towards Samrand Road. The N1 southbound in Centurion has a stationary vehicle reported near John Foster Drive, and Atterbury Road eastbound in Pretoria has a crash reported at January Masilele Drive. In KZN, the R102 is slow moving near Mount Moriah Drive. Inanda Road westbound is slow moving in the Peter Road area, and the N3 westbound has roadworks reported with traffic restrictions on the ramp to the N2 north at Spaghetti Junction, so expect delays. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound slow moving towards Hospital Bend. The M3 southbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive. The M5 southbound is slow moving towards Racecourse Road exit. The N7 Jakes Hadwell Drive southbound slow moving at Voortrekker Road, and Strand Road eastbound in Bellville slow moving towards the R300 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
With misinformation and disinformation around us all the time, where can we turn to for news and information that is not fake? Radio, of course, your number one trusted source of reliable and truthful news and information. For over 3 decades, we have been a signatory to the BCCSA Broadcasting Code of Conduct, and we pride ourselves as a trusted source of information. Say no to false news and disinformation that circulates online. Radio, keeping it real and fighting fake since day one. A message from the National Association of Broadcasters.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Tell you what, so many people talking about the ANC's, foundation or political school having the opinions, and I think one of the issues that hasn't come through quite strongly before in the conversations, but I'll mention that now because I think it's that important, is the fact that the ANC's head of political school education, right, David Makura, says those wanting to join the ANC now have to write motivational letters as to why they want to join the party. So that's interesting. It can't be an automatic, do I read that right? It can't be an automatic join in. You have to write a motivational letter. The question then is who then oversees that letter, and well, I don't think it's a pass rate, but who then decides, okay, this person can join us. We're not talking about a party of 10 or 15 or 20 people or an organization of like 20 people playing cards or football or paddle or whatever. We're talking about a political party with millions of people. How long will they decide that if 1,000 people decide they want to join the party? I mean, they'd love that, I'm sure. Can you just imagine the MK example if everybody has to write a letter? Who does that? I wonder. So lots of people commenting on that. We will certainly pick up your thoughts on that. Let's get to another issue that is really important, okay? And it's this issue of a trend or a narrative of food poisoning that has impacted South Africa for the last few weeks, and it is worrisome because it's not just a case of stomach pains. It's about people losing their lives, and it's a recurring theme, and it's a big deal. Now, the Minister of Health earlier today, together with, that's the Minister, Dr. Aaron Matsualedi, together with the Minister of Small Business Development, that's Stella Ndabeni-Abrams, and the Minister of Police, Senzo Mchunu, briefed the media to provide progress made with regards to the Naledi food poisoning investigations led by what is called NetJoints, right, the National Joint Operational and Intelligence Structure. As part of government's response to the incidents of food poisoning, and I say recurring incidents of food poisoning. So what's come out of that? Let's find out with the Department of Health spokesperson, Foster Mohade. Foster, appreciate your time. You are now connected to the National Pulse.
Good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your listeners, and thanks for this opportunity.
Thank you. Share with us maybe some of the key bullet points that came out of today's meeting.
Yeah, today the ministers, as you have already mentioned, that met today as part of NACJOINS to provide an update to the public through media briefing with regards to progress made with regards to investigation into current state of food contamination. Of course, others they will say food poisoning. So today they only focus on the outcomes of a post-mortem or in scientific language, they say toxicology analysis.
Okay, so for now, it's merely just focusing on that, right? So tell me about what came through from that analysis.
Yeah, now what came, the outcomes of that analysis arrived at the outcomes that the death of the 6 children could be linked to consumption of contaminated food with the chemical, one of the chemicals that are not necessarily supposed to be accessible in the country, which are called organophosphate, which has been identified as one of the chemicals which contributed to the death of the unfortunate death of these young 6 children.
Okay, can you tell us more about, the nature of this organophosphate terrible foods, and what is that, and how did it, where did it end up, and to the point in terms of the journey from where it was to how it was then finally consumed?
Yeah, no, these are part of the ongoing investigation. Organophosphate is one of the toxic or lethal chemicals which is mainly used for pesticides, especially in the field of agriculture. It's a kind of chemical for one to have it, they need to receive a certificate from the relevant authorities, the Department of Agriculture. In this case, you need to get the certificate, which is going to guide you where to use it, how to use it. So, hence I said for these outcomes, we're focusing on the postmortems, but we're still waiting for the laboratory test results on the samples and swabs collected at about 84 spaza shops around Naledi. The outcomes of this swabbing and the samples, if they arrive at the same contamination of the same chemical, then that can strengthen the police case to say this particular chemical was used in one of these spaza shops where these young children bought the snacks.
So while the investigations continue, and they could go on for weeks on end, sometimes critically people say these investigations just take far too long, right? What then are the checks and balances that you can share with us right now so that to prevent us having a conversation about this in a few days' time?
No, we understand the anger by members of the community, the public in particular, especially in the affected areas. But we don't want to rush to make a mistake of announcing the wrong outcomes. Hence, we want to appeal to members of the community to say, please, while we continue with the investigations, we want to appeal to members of the community to cooperate with officials, the health inspectors, police, and other involved officials from different departments and state bodies as we continue the investigation, because there's no need to rush to say these children were killed by this instead of that. So our decision, our announcement must be based on the scientific evidence to communicate to the public. So as soon as we get the results from the samples that we've collected, we are going to reconvene again. The same ministers are going to reconvene again to make an announcement just to find if there's a linkage between the outcomes of postmortems and the outcomes of test results from the samples collected, which are currently managed by National Institute for Communicable Diseases.
Okay, when are those results expected?
They are working around the clock in order to fast track the release of these results. Remember, they run the test, then they expect they independently analyze the results in order to see to arrive at the common outcomes, because otherwise it doesn't assist to say we ran the test, but we need to analyze them. We need to make sure that what we are going to communicate to ordinary people, it will make sense, because otherwise we can't just say we ran the test. What are the analysis, and in simple language, what does that mean? So we need to independently, thoroughly, to ensure that the decision that we are going to communicate is a decision which is based on science.
Okay, fair enough. Now, again, I'll repeat the point that I made, but do it differently. Like, I understand the investigation part, but at this point in time, there are parents listening to us, particularly parents in townships. And there's a very big difference between a parent at a school or a spaza shop in a township versus one in a suburb, right? What should then the parents and those learners be doing right now?
In the meantime, we want to discourage parents from giving the children money to buy, especially not only the spaza shop, but even the hawkers. Remember, when we do the health inspections, we mostly focus in the food outlets, but the hawkers who are selling the food outside the school yard. So we are also going to extend our inspections into those people in order to ensure that we don't leave any need behind or anyone behind, so that we are going to widen our net when we continue with our intensive inspection and investigations, especially around the schools, because as we can see that most of the victims of this food contamination or food poisoning are young children, school-going children.
Okay, lots of conversation around, spaza shops. I mean, it could be that in this case the foods or the aid could come from spaza shops, but there's a sense that alone is also happening far too often. I say that in the context of comments from Stella Benny-Abrams, the Minister of Small Business Development, about plans to go about to have wholesale registering of spaza shops. Now, this is not a health question, but it certainly is a health issue in terms of why have these spaza shops then not been registered? And do you think by not being registered in the past, that in fact they have compromised the health of the people of our country?
Yeah, now, just to concur with the Minister Stella Ndabeni, I think you see when you conduct the investigations, you start to identify some of the gaps. So these are some of the things that we are trying to strengthen in order to prevent future avoidable deaths and also food contamination, which lead to the loss of life. So this is look, we have learned a lesson as government collectively, because this is a collective responsibility as government departments, as state bodies, but also as community, because we want to appeal to community to say where you are staying, where you are living, if you see that something goes wrong, there is no proper handling of food in your nearest spaza shop or the food outlet, or there's no practicing of hygiene, people must break silence, must not allow a situation where certain food outlets, they sell expired food at a cheaper price. They need to know that anything that can compromise the health can eventually cost someone's life. So you can't replace someone's life. So we say to the community members to say, please, let's stand up against this non-compliance of proper food handling and hygiene in the places where we normally buy food. Okay, you said you learned lots of lessons. What are these lessons you've learned? Some of these lessons also to intensify our inspections, especially with regards to compliance with the different regulations, but also working as a collective, because this job cuts across different departments: the Department of Agriculture, Department of Health, Department of Small Business, National Consumer Commission, municipality. So we and the police, we need to work as a collective when we conduct our operation, so that when we enter one spaza shop, the police are going to look at the illegal substances just like agriculture. The Department of Health is going to look at check the compliance with certificate of acceptability, the issue of hygiene, the issue of proper handling of food or packaging or repackaging of food. The Department of Agriculture is going to look at the kind of chemicals that they use to pesticide the insects and the rodents, because we have realized that just like in the households, some of the shop owners, they use different chemicals in order to kill the insects and rodents. So we need to ensure that they're using the legally allowed chemicals in order to kill the insects, because we understand their plight, but we need to ensure that they must work within using the acceptable or legal chemicals in order to kill the insects and the rodents. Okay, let's leave it at that. Foster Mohale, for now that is Foster Mohale, the spokesperson for the health department. It's a big issue here regarding food poisoning, which, on the one hand, we've got food poisoning issues being recurring. It's a recurring problem. The other is these mass shootings
in a few townships over the last few months, and it's like 5 people, 4 people, 10 people, and it just seems indiscriminate. It clearly cannot just continue. And you know, the standard line is like, we'll leave no stone unturned. You've heard that story. No. Something seriously has to happen. I don't quite know. I'm not in charge. But something has to happen, and it can't just be left the way it is. And we spend time talking about it after the event. What are the checks and balances for this not to be happening? I'll take your voice notes after this.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said,
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed Dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Bayede!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
Southern African Queens are back on the battlefield. 14 teams will tackle each other in the search of the ultimate glory. This is the Hollywood Bets COSAFA Women's Championship 2024. Witness the great contest by regional football queens from 22 October to 2 November 2024. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. For the love of the game.
South African Airways is expanding in the DRC. We now offer direct flights from Johannesburg to Lubumbashi, the heart of the DRC's mining hub. Our convenient arrival time allows seamless connections to key regions like Ndola and the Copper Belt, opening up new growth opportunities. Traders can benefit from our generous baggage allowance, while SAA's superior aircraft belly capacity ensures your cargo reaches most parts of Congo on the same day. Book now at flysaa.com or contact your travel agent. South African Airways, connecting Africa to the world, one flight at a time.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Okay, let's get some of your opinions. This is the National Pulse. So what for you drives the National Pulse today? What are you feeling? You know, what you got your fingers on the pulse. What does it tell you personally, nationally? And Kosi, let's get. In fact, no. What we'll do, we're going to get to some of the callers in a moment, and then we'll get to let's get to some of the WhatsApps first, right? In fact, what I'll do is just let me swap things around. These things do happen in a live format. Let's get to our guest first. There's an important event coming up. The South African Communist Party in Gauteng will march against the high cost of living in South Africa. That's part of its Red October campaign. So let's get the thoughts of Nkosi Tilete Bonga, who's the SACP Gauteng provincial spokesperson. Appreciate your time. You're now connected to the National Pulse.
Well, good afternoon, Ashraf, and thank you for having us this afternoon.
Thank
and
you.
Greetings to the listeners out there.
Right. Tell us about this plan of this Red October campaign and this big march coming up.
Well, following the success of the launch of the SACP Red October campaign on the 6th of October this year in Mpumalanga, eMalahleni, where the SACP General Secretary Kondesoli Mapaile delivered a keynote address focusing on the SACP Central Committee statement on the 2024 to 2025 Red October campaign. What we are doing now, we are taking the campaign to the ground. And this year's Red October campaign is premised on combating the high cost of living, in which we have identified the main causes of the high cost of living within the neoliberal policy framework, which are perpetuated by the National Treasury. Hence, we are marching there. It is the same policies that are promoting poverty and worsening inequalities in our society.
All right. What do you hope to achieve out of it? I mean, I know the issues and what the SACP stands for, but you know, you're also part of the broader ANC. That's another conversation. But what do you hope to achieve, keeping in mind that your organization, as part of the partnership with the ANC, effectively is the government?
Well, one of the main things that we wish to achieve, we wish to send a very strong message to the government. And that message is that the government must avoid entertaining the profit-driven opposition to progressive, the opposition to the implementation of progressive policies, such as the NHI, the National Health Insurance. No one should be denied quality health care, regardless of their class, position in the society. And this is one of the main reservations that we have against the current government of national unity, of which we have characterized as a consolidation of class forces within and outside the movement. And the class forces that you are referring to here are neoliberal class forces that are obsessed with satisfying the interest of business at the expense of the interest of the working class, whom are the majority, by the way, in South Africa. Those are just some of the messages that we wish to send out there. Of course, we want to point out that the policy formulation space must encourage a conducive environment for industrialization, for large-scale employment creation, improving social relief distress grant, and to transform it to a universal basic income grant. And of course, once again, we cannot emphasize enough the immediate implementation of the national health insurance.
Okay, tell me more about the details of the actual march then. What, when, where, why?
Well, the march is taking place on the 1st of November, which is Friday. We are assembling at the old Padco depot in Marabastad. Let me just get the correct time so that we do not mislead. At 11 o'clock.
Okay, got that. 11 o'clock. Is there any final point you'd like to share in terms of the thrust of your of the march that you think is really important?
We wish the people to come out in their numbers. People from working class communities. This march is within their interest. It is directed at improving the living conditions of the working class. The high cost of living affects everyone, especially majority of South Africans. Therefore, they must come out. This is not a SACP march. It is a people's march.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Thank you for your time, Nkosi Tilele Bonga, the spokesperson for the SABC, or the SACP, not SABC, SACP in Gauteng. Appreciate your time and best wishes for your march as part of your Red October campaign. Okay, we'll get you more calls and voice notes in a moment. In fact, I'll do that right away, right? Again, and predictably, there's so many comments on the ANC more than anything else. But here's another one on the Ukraine story.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, still in Cape Town. Ashraf, I want to talk about the Minister of Home Affairs. You can see the GNU gonna start having cracks from there. He signed a document without discussing with the president, and if the president does not sign the last part, meaning that decision of giving Ukrainian free visa will collapse. That's the problem. That's where the problem started. It's like DA want to do things on its own way, thinking like they won election and they are entitled to do anything they want to do on their power, instead of consulting the president. By end of the day, the president Cyril Ramaphosa can fire the minister. He's still the leader of the government. So any political thing, you need to consult the president. Thank you.
Okay, I don't even think it's a case of not consulting. I think it's a case of claiming the way it came across in his tweets that they were doing it on their own and they were like, thanks to them. That's really what it is, because there's been definite consultations, even at departmental level, which has been very, very clear. So it's how it's been portrayed by themselves for reasons of publicity, perhaps, that may be concerning indeed, right? Okay, let's talk about the ANC.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and all the listeners. This is Anonymous from Soweto. Just commenting on the ANC's new school, political school, the project's already, for me, it's kind of a non-starter. It fails at its inception because at the end of the day, listen, these guys have tried Umkhabulo. They tried to launch a political school and it was a fiasco. They couldn't even run a simple virtual meeting. It was terrible. And learned a new word today, kakistocracy, which is where a country is run by the worst common denominator of citizens, so they're worst citizens. And yeah, the ANC has slipped into that. And it's good on them to try and reorientate themselves, but it's going to fail, so it's pointless.
Well, I don't know about that, but the fact is they're also in partnership with many other parties that make up the GNU. So then one can't say, well, it's just the ANC. We know what happened before, but right now it's a collective, good or bad, and we see that every day.
Ashraf, Fundo here from Cape Town, man. Eric Ten Hag and Manchester United. I'm so sad. I'm so sad. They have spoiled the fun, man. They have spoiled the fun so early. Anyway, let's hope that they'll get another Ten Hag light. Cheers, Fundo here, Liverpool supporter.
I knew you were going to say that. I'm listening. I said, why are you so sad? Because are you sad that Ten Hag got sacked, or you said that it didn't work out for him? Now, me as a Man United fan, I'm really sad that it didn't work out for him. Ultimately, you want to win titles. And then you spoil it by saying you're waiting for a Ten Hag light soon as a Liverpool supporter. I think many Liverpool supporters are disappointed today. They really are. Well, there you are. On your plus side, the fact that you lost one coach, we were happy. And then you replaced him with a guy who's got a better record already. I don't want to even get into all of that, okay? 5:30 is the news headlines with Greg Host.
Quick look at the headlines. The Minister of International Relations and Cooperation says South Africa is this afternoon submitting a detailed memorial against Israel at the International Court of Justice. The Western Cape Minister of Police Oversight and Community Safety has expressed her condolences to the families of 3 people who were shot and killed in Khayelitsha. And new research by the World Weather Organization says concentrations of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere accumulated faster last year than at any time in human history. A full update at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown Interchange. The N1 northbound in Midrand is slow moving towards Samrand Road. In Pretoria, Eskom Patleli Drive northbound has delays towards Moot Street. The N4 eastbound has a crash before the R566 Roslyn exit, and that's causing delays in traffic in both directions. Atterbury Road eastbound has a crash reported at January Masilela Drive. Solomon Mutlango Drive has a stationary truck reported at the N4 highway, and the N4 Witbank Highway westbound has delays towards the N1 highway. In KZN, the N2 is road surface damage just west of Isolgolwini, so expect delays and diversions. The R102 is slow moving near Mount Moriah Drive. Ananda Road westbound is slow moving in the Peter Road area, and the N3 westbound has roadworks reported with traffic restrictions on the ramp to the N2 north at Spaghetti Junction, so expect delays. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound is slow moving towards Rhodes Drive. The M5 southbound is slow moving towards Racecourse Road exit. The N7 checks Haddonfield Drive southbound slow moving at Voortrekker Road, and the N2 outbound is slow moving towards the R300 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Right, thank you for that. Okay, let's get into sport now. So, do you know what? Well, you should know, Tumi. Today is 1 year.
Yeah, 1 year anniversary. What anniversary? When the Springboks won the World Cup for a record.
I just know they won. I know it's 4 times, but I think at the moment for people, they can't think beyond that. It's like a year ago today, all the people were concerned about the country. It's like, oh my goodness, we won the World Cup. And then they followed up by winning the rugby championship. So they're certainly not letting go, isn't it? Although there are big changes within the team and a lot of experimentation, which is fabulous. But you want to comment on that?
But it's still a winning team.
Incredible 1 year, that day 1 year ago.
Yeah, when they beat the All Blacks.
1 point.
By 1 point. It was absolutely amazing. I think I can just think of that moment and how exciting it was for me and the country as a whole. But as you speak now, what you just said earlier on, as much as the team has evolved over this year, one thing that sticks and remains is that winning culture.
And talking about that, I mean, Rassie Erasmus, somebody said the other day, today, in fact, a Man United fan says, we need to get Rassie as the coach of Man United. But the truth is, at this point in time, He has got to be one of the great sporting coaches in the world, of any sport.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right, go ahead. What else you got?
Well, it's a huge night for SA goalkeeper Ronald Williams, who will rub shoulders with the biggest stars of the game at the Ballon d'Or ceremony tonight. He's nominated for the Yashin Trophy Award and the fourth African keeper to be nominated for this award. And he's going to go up against the likes of Diogo Costa of Portugal and FC Porto and Emiliano Martinez of Argentina and Aston Villa, amongst others. And obviously, we've heard from him. I played a clip where he was explaining that just because he was leading in the English votes online, it does not necessarily mean that he's won. And who is actually part of the jury that is going to decide who's going to win in this Yashin Trophy? It's actually an international jury of specialized journalists with one representative per country from the top 100 in the latest FIFA rankings before the list was published. And the very same jury is going to decide who's going to walk away with the men's and the women's Ballon d'Or. And also, the coaches' trophy, they're the ones that are deciding who is going to walk away as the winner. With that said, I am also saying all the best to Ronald Williams. He left for France yesterday, and I hope that he comes back with the trophy. You can only imagine how big it would be if he actually wins this one.
And do you think he will?
It's tough to tell, hey? Yeah. It's tough to tell. However, as a South African, I'd say he deserves it.
Yeah, look, it doesn't, and of course that voting process, Spanish, English, judges.
It's judges. I think at the end of the day, it's judges. However, because they put it out to the public, surely one way or the other, they would ask themselves, why is the public voting for this one specifically, or the English side of it?
Can you imagine if it's only the public vote, which I don't like, and the player in question is either Chinese or Indian? And the other five are from other countries. Like, I'm trying to think of the names, like one is from Senegal, the other one is from Seychelles, by the way. Yeah. They got no chance. The whole country will vote for them, billions of votes. That's why I don't like it.
That's true. That is so true. But Real Madrid's Brazilian winger, Vinicius Junior, is considered the hot favorite for this year's award, although teammate and English midfielder Jude Bellingham and Manchester City's Spanish midfielder General Rodri are also in the race. So it'll be interesting to see who's going to walk away with the big trophy for the night. Still staying with football, if you haven't heard, Manchester United have sacked their manager Erik ten Hag, and Ruud van Nistelrooy will take charge of the team as interim head coach, supported by the current coaching team, while the permanent head coach is recruited. And ten Hag is the fifth manager to lose his job since Sir Alex Ferguson. And here's Brentford manager Thomas Frank, whose name was also put into the hat, or the names of the managers that could be approached to come and stand in for Ten Hag. And this is what Thomas had to say.
You're right. It's a very delicate question. I got a big responsibility to Brentford Football Club, the fans, Matthew, leadership, players, staff, and I have one focus, that is to do the very best to beat Sheffield Wednesday tomorrow in the Carabao Cup, and focus on that. I've said many times, I'm very happy here. I think it's one of the best clubs in the world. What happens in the future, who knows? But I'm very happy here.
Well, there you have it. And Ashraf, earlier on when you played that voice note of that listener saying that he was devastated by the fact that Erik ten Hag was let go, my first question was, is this person a Manchester United fan? Because I was like, there is no way. Yesterday on social media, everyone was like, how could you say Erik ten Hag needs to be sacked when he has a whole family to feed? And we're not laughing at the fact that he lost his job, obviously, just laughing at all these people.
Well, even when they lose their job, they made so much money, really. They get massive compensation. I think that's the least of their worries.
Absolutely.
Some of them are like, it's a whole career. Get in, do badly, get a job, get paid out, move on, get sacked.
But I'm sure if you coach at Manchester United, you'd love to be successful.
Obviously, you would love to, but 5 have not been successful since Alex Ferguson.
We need to ask Arsenal how they did it.
They haven't been successful either.
They have Mikel Arteta, who's
they haven't won a league title.
Yes, they haven't won a league title. However, do you not think since Arsene Wenger, Mikel Arteta is one manager that you can say at least they should keep him for a long time?
No, that I agree. But his ultimate success will be judged by whether he can win a league title and the Champions League. That
Of course.
really is it.
Well, moving on to rugby, the Springboks have been rocked by another injury blow ahead of the end of the year tour. Tight head prop Frans Malherbe also picked up an injury and didn't make the trip when the Springboks departed for a training camp in Jersey yesterday. Malherbe was one of the 3 Springboks injured in the Stormers' 28-17 defeat to Glasgow Warriors in Stellenbosch over the weekend. And the camp marks the final preparation before the Boks face Scotland, England and Wales. In athletics, South African athletics legend Kgozo Mokoena has launched a development skills program called YASDI, Youth Athletics Skills Development Institute, and this initiative aims to assist high school and university learners as well as professional athletes in making decisions that will benefit them in the long run after they retire from sports. And Mokoena has encouraged young athletes to join the initiative to gain valuable knowledge and learn strategies that will assist them in their post-retirement lives.
My advice to athletes, especially young athletes who are already doing well right now, accumulating all these medals, getting all these good finances through winning. My advice to the youngsters, especially, particularly those who are still in school, whether in high school or still in university or college or technical, my advice is that come into YASDI. Learn about the skills that can assist you to sustain yourself. I was also an Olympian in high school. In Athens. I was still in high school when I went to Athens in 2004, right? And in 2003, I was still in high school when I won the silver and the bronze for the All African Games in Nigeria in Abuja, making history. I was an athlete and I was in school also going to the Olympics. My advice is that start building yourself right now.
On that note, it's a wrap from my side, but just before I forget, that Ballon d'Or ceremony that is happening tonight is going to happen at 9 p.m. So make sure you glue to your TV and you don't miss out when Ronwen Williams hopefully walks away with that Yashin Trophy.
Safest hands in football, so they claim. We will find out soon enough. Anyway, thanks for that, Tumi. You better get dressed for the occasion then. I would think 9 o'clock.
Alrighty, ke nna Tumeng Kgapele, modimo ke yo.
Muvhango returns for an explosive new season on SABC2. A renaissance of new beginnings, intrigue, and drama with old enemies and new characters. Catch the rebirth season of Muvhango every Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. on SABC2 or stream it on SABC Plus. Muvhango, ukovela panda. SABC2.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
SAFM will be hosting its annual Breast Cancer Awareness Roundtable on The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana on Wednesday, the 30th of October 2024 at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Center in Boksburg. For an opportunity to join the roundtable, email your name and surname to info@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, as always, Jimmy Moya hosts the SAFM Market Update, the show from 6 to 7. So looking ahead to that, we've got him with us now. Jimmy, good chatting to you as always. So I see what's moving markets is Dis-Chem and Pick n Pay. But in the case of Pick n Pay, clearly they're not moving markets.
Good evening, Ashraf. Good evening to our listeners. Yes, we're going to be taking a look at both of those companies. They've both given us interim results. The Dis-Chem results coming through on Friday. Obviously, we wouldn't have had a show on the Friday, so we're going to speak to the company CEO today to reflect on those numbers and try and make sense of that performance halfway through their new financial year. The same with Pick n Pay. They've had a myriad of challenges to contend with, and we're going to see how they've been handling those challenges and what the business looks like going forward. Then we've also got a conversation with the team at Standard Bank. We're going to be speaking to the Deputy Chief Executive at Standard Bank around an initiative called SA Tomorrow. There's an SA Tomorrow conference that the Standard Bank and the JSE and a couple of other parties have been putting together that's going to hopefully improve investment opportunities for South Africa in New York. They're showcasing the South African country and the South African economy to investors outside of SA. So we're going to look at that. We're going to try and get a sense of how that conference is shaping up and what we can look forward to from there. And then we have our personal finance segment on a Monday, and we're going to be taking a look at the consequences of credit card dependency and what you can do to have your credit card work better for you. We're going to be speaking to the National Debt Advisors around that as well. But before we get to that, the markets have quite an interesting day. It's been a really positive day, and we'll take a positive start to the week following the positive close to last week as well. If we have a look at just how the markets have been moving throughout the rest of the world before we come to South Africa, it's been pretty much a green day all round, with the exception of the Nikkei in Tokyo. That was the only Asian market in the red. All European markets were in the green. The US markets are in the green at the moment. South African markets were in the green as well. Financial stocks up 0.85% locally, with industrials up 0.93%. Resources, a bit of a dampener there at 0.2% or a fifth of a percent in the red, but nonetheless the all share was up almost 0.75%, with the top 40 up 0.2%. If we look at the performance of the rand against the major currencies, it is slightly weaker at the moment against all of the major currencies, kind of flat against the Australian dollar at around 11.66 rand, against the euro 19.14 rand, about a fifth of a percent weaker, 22.99 rand against the British pound, about a third of a percent weaker, and holding that very tight range against the US dollar, 17.69 rand there. The Brent crude price in the right direction, $72 a barrel. Last week we were closer to that $75 a barrel level, so I'm very happy with where that's sitting at the moment. The gold price, $2,740 an ounce. Not showing any signs of a reprieve just yet there, but there are still obviously some concerns around how much longer that's going to be running for. Platinum and palladium pricing all in the green as well. We take that win, and we hope that that continues for our platinum counters. We're going to be looking at that a little later on with our market watcher from Rand Swiss around just what to expect this week. There's a lot of data that's going to be coming out this week, and we're going to be reflecting on what to look forward to when we come back a little later on. For now, Ashraf, though, back to you.
Okay, and of course, we have a big event coming up on Wednesday, so, looking ahead to that, you'll be giving us some important lessons. Give me another one. Soundbite.
Well, we're looking at recapitalization. We often think about it in the context of companies recapitalizing themselves, but we spoke to SAA last week, and they also need a bit of recapitalization. Effectively, it's where a company restructures its debt and equity mixture to either take in more debt or take in more equity to redeploy that capital into improving the business. Typically, a recapitalization kind of positions the business a little bit better to be able to navigate its next steps going forward. And I'm expecting we might see something around that from an SOE standpoint in the midterm budget policy statement that we'll be getting on Wednesday. Obviously, you and I will be breaking down that statement in quite a bit of detail as it comes out in real time, and we will see what we can make sense of there. But recapitalization is something that businesses do, that SOEs do, and generally it can be a good thing if done right.
Okay, perfect. We'll leave it at that, and we'll certainly follow up with another conversation tomorrow, and then the big one on Wednesday. Right, let's get to some of your thoughts after this.
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAFM Market Update.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Okay, what gets your pulses working today? Clearly, I know.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, I don't think a political school is needed. The only thing that is needed is integrity and humility. People must be able to do the right things without being looked after. Somebody looking after that we are doing the right things or not. And they must humble themselves to listen to the voters. Secondly, I don't wish they should come back, because if they come back alone in government, we'll be taking 20 steps backwards. There won't be any progress. It's fine like this. Should be GNU forever and ever till eternity comes. Thank you very much. Anonymous from Soweto.
Till eternity comes. Remember, somebody else made another comment about somebody ruling until so-and-so comes. Remember that person? Well, that person's not even in the same party any longer. Yeah, things definitely change. Right, here's another one on that ANC, Political School Workshop Foundation. Right, so let me just get that sorted out.
Ashraf, good afternoon. This is Spike in Cape Town. About, I would like to just respond, comment to the voice note you played earlier that this guy says we don't need, this school and what and so forth. I don't know why this guy is saying this. However, in my humble opinion, Ashraf, this school, this workshop, it's almost similar to what we used to have long time way back, umkhabulo. Members of the African National Congress will understand, will remember that we use umkhabulo. Now we are elevating it to another level. Let it be. Indeed, people need education on the ground. This is Spike in Cape Town, member of the African National Congress. Since I don't know when, and I voted for it since 1994. I still do.
And you know what? You have to go to political school again. Never mind when you started. I hope you pass. I really do hope you pass. Okay. Here's another one on that issue. I like your laugh, by the way. You should just bottle it.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, I don't think a political school is needed. The only thing that is needed is integrity and humility. People must be able to do the right things without being looked after. Somebody looking after that we are doing the right things or not. And they must humble themselves to listen to the voters. Secondly, I don't wish they should come back, because if they come back alone in government, we'll be taking 20 steps backwards. There won't be any progress. It's fine like this. Should be GNU forever and ever till eternity comes. Thank you very much. Anonymous from Soweto.
All right, thanks for that, Anonymous. Let's move on to other things now. We have this feature called Winning, right? So let's get to winning after this.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, so every day we wrap up the show with Winning, where we speak to a person, an institute, an organization that effectively is like best in class at what they do. They're really doing something that's really worth talking about. And the backstory to all of that is for us to understand that person and what is it they're doing that gets them to be winning, which is fantastic. Nonhlanhla Mukungcele is now my guest, founder and CEO of Esteemed Financial Solutions and Esteemed Learning Academy. Nonhlanhla, good chatting to you and good chatting to a winner.
Yes, good afternoon, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. Right. So let's start with a few things. I mean, I think your latest accolade is what the It Starts With Me award, and as a financial planner or growth planner, you were a recipient of that award. That's fantastic.
Yes, thank you so much. It actually happened in August, when it was during the FPI convention, when we had a gala dinner. And yeah, we got this.
Okay, and you said we 3 times, so it's clearly not just you on your own.
I always say we because I always count my team in.
Okay. What did, I was going to say, what did you do? I better say, what did we do? But that includes me. Tell me about.
Don't leave my team behind.
Yeah, how does one get an accolade like that? I mean, clearly there's something that you and your team have done.
Yeah. So with this, obviously, this is an award that is coming from a financial planning institute, which is our professional body in the industry. So what happens is that when you have written a board exam and you've earned this designation, which is the CFP, which is a Certified Financial Planner designation, you then get recognized, obviously, from the professional body, and then you then do quite a lot of work actually. Tirelessly, we doing all these pro bono work, having to educate the community about financial planning, about financial literacy. So you do quite a lot of those kind of activities and speaking engagements, just empowering our community around financial planning and financial literacy. So this has been happening for the number of years. This has been part of my journey, and yeah.
Let's talk about what fires your financial literacy campaign, because I mean, listen, I'm much older, but I still think I need help all the time, right? I mean,
Yeah,
how big a deal is it that far too many South Africans are actually financially illiterate?
It's very big, and I still believe that as an industry we have not really done much. We just have to continuously do as much as we can from our own little space, because each and every individual, especially it always, for me, it should start at school. But unfortunately right now, curriculum does not take in that. But now, so where else do we go? We must go to universities and talk about this. We must go to employers and talk and give talks around financial literacy. So there's still a lot of work that needs to be done around that. And I'm hoping that as we continuously do this, eventually we can get to our community, because our people are still very scared, man, to really talk about money.
For some reason, and you're right, they'll spend more time talking about the political parties and football clubs as if that determines what's going to go into their bank account, yet the financial literacy has a greater impact on their personal family success. I won't say me included, let me keep quiet, yeah. How do you change that? I mean, so outside of you saying go to varsities, tell me about what you do with financial literacy in practical terms. What have you done?
Yeah, so I do quite a lot of speaking engagement. So I can be a speaker in different kind of events. I will be given a topic that I will be able to present to the audience. Not only just on the private sector side, we also do it on the public sector side, where we just go in. Probably most of the conversation, or mostly the topics, is around debt management, because we know that is the biggest problem. You're right. So you have to give them tools and practical ways on how they do it and how to manage it on a month-to-month situations. And then from there, you build it up slowly, depending on the audience. Sometimes it's about retirement planning, because that's another big gap that we are also experiencing as a country, to say that we don't have enough people that are retiring comfortably. So it will be different topics, different circumstances from different audience as well.
What about your own journey? I mean, so you're in this, personal finance, personal growth space, but you must have your own journey that you had to undertake. Tell me about that very quickly.
Yeah, no, to get here, it's been one of the difficult things. So I always say that it starts with me. It did not just happen only as an award for me. It's always been part of my journey, because I've been. It also was my first time. I was the only first child in the family to get a degree. I was also the first child to also start her own studied business that is still operating till today. So it resonates so much with me, because it's not just only an award, only on the financial planning side, but also on personal, because there's just so much that I've achieved through this journey, and there's so many highlights through that as well. But one of the biggest things is that when I was supposed to write the CFP board exam, and this was happening now in 2021, I lost my sister, and that was the most painful thing, which I have to really pack my exams, and I could not go through with that. And then, but later on, through the support and family support, I then got myself to rewrite again. And the FPI, being the Financial Planning Institute, gave me another opportunity to go rewrite, to write again. And I managed to get it in the same year, where I had promised her that I'm going to get it, because she knew how much I always wanted to have it next to my name, but I just kept on holding it back. So it was one of the things that I had to honor for her. And every single day I hold it up high, as part of me. Remembering that this is one of the things that makes me keep going every single day.
How, so the feature is called winning, right? Which we make the very measured assumption that you are winning at what you do, right?
Yes.
Why do you think you are the winner? Not so much what you did. There are attributes that you've embraced that get you to be winning.
I think it's the passion that I have for the industry. Because one of the things that works out for me is that when you do something out of love and out of your passion, and you don't expect anything to be paid for, that is one of the things that I know that they've recognized and they've picked it up, and just not only from my side, but I also know it from the industry itself. And also having to have the resilience of keep going, no matter how hard it is. Our sector, our industry is a very difficult industry. For you to be running a business and do activities that you're not paid for is quite challenging. But because I know why I'm doing it, I always call it that I'm in the financial ministry, because that's the purpose that God has given me.
And maybe just the last thing again for people listening in, and your advice to them, people who are losing and they want to switch on to winning. I mean, just your quick advice as to what you could tell them.
I'm always going to say, keep focused to the plan. Always go back to your why. That is always my standard conversation with most people going down. Because even for myself right now, I'm personally going through certain challenges. But the only thing that keeps me waking up in the morning is to say, why do I want to do this?
Well, it's a good enough.
I always go back and focus on that, and I keep going.
And what's your answer to the why? Just a quick answer.
My why is to make sure that our South Africans are financially literate and making sure that they make the best financial decisions for themselves.
So that's what governs you. Appreciate your time, Nonhlanhla Muku-Ncele,
So
the
much.
founder of the esteemed Financial Solutions and esteemed Learning Academy. Her why, financial literacy, like the Springboks why, win the World Cup for the nation. In many ways, both are winning. One a year ago, one today, and that's what we do on the show. We try and focus on people who are winning, fingers on the pulse, so that you as an individual and us as a collective, well, somehow we get things right as a nation. It's 6 o'clock. Let's get the news now. Here's Greg Hurst.
Thank you again, Ashraf. In this news update, SA pursues Israel case at the ICJ and shocking new research on greenhouse gases. Good evening. The Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, says South Africa is submitting a detailed memorial against Israel at the International Court of Justice. The action aims to substantiate its case that Israel